Good evening. Welcome to the Costa Mesa Planning Commission meeting for Monday, November 28th, 2022. Call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Rojas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Commissioner Rojas. And a roll call, please.
Chair D'Erical.
Here.
Vice Chair Zick is absent. Commissioner Rojas.
Here.
Commissioner Toller.
Here.
Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Vivar.
Present.
Commissioner Arith.
Present.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no announcements or presentations tonight on the agenda. This brings us to public comment. All members of the public wishing to speak to the Planning Commission tonight on matters that are within our jurisdiction but are not on tonight's agenda, this is the time and place to make those public comments. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record when you come forward or when you speak by Zoom. Does anyone in chambers wish to speak tonight on a matter not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no one, is there anybody on Zoom or by telephone?
No, there's not, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
we'll close out the public comment. This brings us to commissioners' comments, and we'll begin tonight with Commissioner Rojas. Any comments, sir?
I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Arith.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We always appreciate the public coming out and participating in discourse with us, so thank you. I'd like to wish everyone a happy belated Thanksgiving. I hope everyone had a nice evening. And I think selfishly, I'd like to congratulate the University of South Carolina football team for beating Clemson recently. So and that's all for me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Toller.
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Vivar.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to echo my colleague, Commissioner Arith's comments regarding the Thanksgiving wishes. So hope you all had a great time with your families. And thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting. Those of you who are out here for specific items or in general to observe our proceedings here in chambers or online. So thank you for your participation. And that's it for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Russell, any comments tonight?
I also want to wish everybody, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. It's good to see everyone. I got an email from the Costa Mesa Alliance for Better Streets, and Caltrans is looking at creating a protective bike lane from Broadway down to Via Lido in Newport, which would impact Newport Avenue. They're having a hearing tentatively December 5th at 6 o'clock at the Herzog Center. That's kind of the heart line of Costa Mesa. And it gives us an opportunity to tell Caltrans what we'd like to see there. We're always kind of complaining about what we'd like and they don't listen. And here's an opportunity. You can talk to Caltrans. You can give them your thoughts, let them know that we're interested in having streets that are safe for pedestrians and bike riders and other people. So just put that on your calendar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Russell. I have no comments this evening, so we'll move to the consent calendar. There is none, and that takes us to, there's nothing on the consent calendar, and then we'll move on to public hearings. And we'll start with public hearing item number 1. Anna, if you'll read that into the record, please.
Public hearing item number 1, planning application 21-33 for a conditional use permit to operate a retail cannabis storefront business located at 675 Palermo Avenue, Suites 5, 6, and 7, Stizzy. Please note we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the Commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Commissioners, any communications to report? Commissioner Russell.
Yes, I had a phone conversation with the applicant's representative this afternoon. Thank
Okay,
you.
Commissioner Toller? Commissioner Rojas? Commissioner Erth, none? Commissioner Vivar, any ex parte?
I received an email from the applicant's representative, but unfortunately was not able to respond. Thank you.
Okay. I have none to report, so we'll turn the floor over to Ms. Nguyen.
Thank you, Chair DeArco, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nancy Nguyen, Senior Planner with the Economic and Development Services Department. Planning Application 21-33 is a request for a CUP to establish a retail cannabis dispensary, which is a state license type 10. The applicant is not proposing to offer retail delivery at this location. And the proposed business name of the the proposed business name for the dispensary is Dizzy. So to date, Planning Commission has approved 10 CUPs for retail cannabis storefronts and denied 1 CUP. The approved CUPs are shown here in green, and the denied CUP is shown in yellow. Similarly, as the cannabis CUPs that were presented before Planning Commission, this applicant has also successfully completed the initial application steps, including the pre-application and CBP, before submitting the CUP application. So if the CUP is approved tonight, the applicant would then continue on to the remaining steps, which also includes the issuance of a CBP. So as mentioned earlier, the proposed storefront is located at 675 Paularino Avenue, in suites 5, 6, and 7. The project location is highlighted in yellow on these 2 images here. The subject property is zoned C1, which is the local business district commercial zone. The existing development on the property consists of an approximately 8,000 square foot single-story multi-tenant commercial building, and it currently has 8 tenant suites. So here are some site photos of the existing property, which shows the current condition of the building. The building was constructed around mid-1970s and is currently occupied by a variety of uses, including 7-Eleven, a Japanese restaurant, hair salon, and massage business. The proposed storefront would take over the 3 end suites occupied by the Japanese restaurant, massage business, and chiropractor's office. The property owner intends to relocate the restaurant tenant to another property they own that's also within Costa Mesa, as well as relocate the massage tenant to a different suite in the same subject building. The chiropractor's office has been vacant since 2021. As you could probably tell on these photos, they're pretty recent, the property is undergoing facade improvements, which would modernize the whole center. And the improvements also include minor site improvements like restriping the parking lot. The proposed location of the retail storefront is shaded red here on this proposed site plan. The project site has existing landscaping, including trees, and 34 parking spaces in the surface lot. So although the property owner has started the facade improvements, as well as the site improvements, the applicant proposes to further enhance the existing site by adding new trees to match the existing, and as well as add a bicycle rack to support active transportation. So this is a proposed floor plan, which includes 2 major areas, the retail sales area shown in green, and then the back of house area shown in red. The facility has 1 public customer entrance and 1 access controlled entrance that is for licensed vendors and employees. So as I mentioned, in terms of the exterior improvements, it'll be minimal since property owner has started the exterior building improvements, which were permitted prior to the submittal of the CUP. As such, many of the proposed improvements will be to the interior in order to create the retail and back-of-house areas. The applicant provided a detailed business plan that was evaluated by the city's cannabis consultant, HDL. And it was determined to meet the requirements of the business plan. In addition, a security plan was also prepared by a professional security consultant that was then reviewed by the city's cannabis consultant, again, HDL. And HDL did determine that the appropriate security measures were included to address both the city and state requirements. As with other cannabis CUPs, there are more than 50 standard conditions of approval, for including no on-site consumption, age restrictions, compliance with state regulations, as well as CBP renewal. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, and approve planning application 21-33, subject to the conditions of approval. This does include staff's presentation, but the applicant has prepared a presentation for the commission tonight as well, and we're both available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Not quite yet, gentlemen. We'll call you up when we're ready to go. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rojas, do you have any questions of staff?
I have none at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Toller?
No questions, but just a shout out to whoever's idea it was to make a map of all the approved and denied. And I thought that was very helpful, the way we've been doing with the Measure X project. So thank you for that.
Okay, Commissioner Russell?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Arith?
Thank you, Chair. No questions for staff other than to echo Commissioner Toller's comment about the map. That would be nice to continue seeing that. Thank you, Chair.
All right, Commissioner Vivar?
I too want to echo my colleagues' comments about the map. In a planning commission meeting probably 2 months ago, I had asked during my commissioner comments to mislead Jennifer Lee about a map like this. So I'm very happy that we got this provided. And as we continue with the following batch of cannabis applications, it'd be great to see this gradually updated. I do have one question. I was just wondering about the background section of the staff report that mentioned something about only the 7-Eleven being occupied in the commercial building in question, but the rest of the units being vacant. Whereas I think the staff report itself and my observations of the site show me that there are currently at least 2 businesses there, including the hair salon. So was this vacant? Was this comment about the 7-Eleven being the only operating business, was that regarding leases, or what was that referring to?
Yes, Commissioner Vivar, this staff report, or the background section, was drafted while it was drafted probably a few weeks before most of the facade improvements were done, and I believe some of the tenants then moved back in because while it was undergoing improvements, the businesses were temporarily closed, except for 7-Eleven, I believe. So it has not anything to do with the leases.
Oh, okay. So they were just not there while the work was being done on the building, is what I understand. Okay.
Correct. And at the time of the report, it was
Sure.
Reflected of that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I think that's it for my questions for this.
Okay, I have one kind of, I'll say arcane question. On page A01 of the architectural attachments provided in the staff report, is it A11? Sorry, I'm wrong. Page 91, it's page 91 of the staff report, the handout. So on the schedule, number 7 is the trash enclosure to the south of the property. Oh, is it south? Could be the east of the property. It is east. There's a trash enclosure there. And what I'm curious as to if, and I imagine this would be a building permit issue or a certificate of occupancy issue, but is there an acceptable ADA path of travel from the storefronts to that trash enclosure? In other words, what's the slope of that sidewalk, slope of the parking lot, to make sure that anybody working in those buildings who is disabled needs to get to the trash container, we're ADA compliant on that?
Yeah, Chair, that's definitely something that the building division would review for accessibility compliance at building plan check.
Okay. I just want to make sure that happens. I don't know if it may already be, but I want to make sure that before anybody gets a certificate of occupancy, because they do great. They show great path of travel out to Paularino, and I just want to make sure that that enclosure is equally accessible from an ADA perspective.
Yes, Chair, we are getting ahead on some of these applications with regards to ADA compliance and asking the applicants to really hone in on some of these issues up front so that their plans can reflect a concurrent code compliant design. So this includes both exterior and interior improvements like bathrooms and door locations.
Okay, great, thank you. That's my questions for now. I'll open the public hearing, ask the applicant to come forward. Ask you to state your name and address for the record. I will also ask you if you've read the staff report, conditions of approval, and if you agree with the conditions of approval. Oops, sorry, that's my bad. Got to turn on the microphone. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Tak Sato. Our proposed location is 675 Paularino, and I have read the terms and conditions,
And do you agree with them?
and I agree with them.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time this evening to consider our application. Again, my name is Tak Sato, the president of the Shrine Group, the owner of the applicant Stizzy Paularino for the proposed location at 675 Paularino. I'm here with our Director of Development, Cyrus Pai. We came across, we were very fortunate enough to receive our prior approval for our other location at 2710 Harbor with our Measure X partner, Caravana, on August 22nd. Next slide, please. A little background on the Shrine Group. We are the largest cannabis operator in California by revenue, store count, and total operations. We're also the most experienced operator in California and have firsthand experience operating stores in high-density areas and making sure that we do not cause a nuisance to the surrounding areas. As you can see, we also have multiple locations in multiple cities. For example, we have 4 stores in Los Angeles, 4 in San Francisco, and 2 in San Bernardino, and 2 that will open up in Fresno in 2023. Since our last hearing on August 22nd in front of the Planning Commission, we've opened up 3 more stores in California and 3 stores in Michigan. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on our owners. Our founder, James Kim, is an Iraq War veteran, and he founded the company in 2018 to help other veterans cope with PTSD and pain management. I am the president and co-owner of Shrine Group. With over 6 years of cannabis experience and my background as an attorney, I will help ensure that our operation will be 100% compliant. Next slide, please. We are very proud to be unionized with the UFCW. We are the largest cannabis employer in California with over 2,300 employees, and will create at least 25 to 30 jobs at this location. We provide full medical benefits and are one of the only cannabis employers to provide an employer-funded pension plan administered with the UFCW. Retail associates at this location will make between $17.50 to $24.50 an hour, and managers will make between $70,000 to $80,000. We also provide workforce development classes to all our employees, which are transferable as college credits at any junior college and college within California. I'll turn it over to Cyrus.
Next slide, please. Thanks, Doc. We are requesting a conditional use permit for a cannabis retail storefront and do not plan to run delivery out of this location. Operational hours will be from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and this will be for a recreational license. The pictures on the right of the slide show context of our site in the shopping center and the surrounding neighborhood. The shopping center is professionally owned and managed by Emerald Property Group, who are seasoned retail owners that both lease, own, and manage their properties. They also own and manage 3033 Bristol across the street. In collaboration with Emerald Property Group, we believe our plan for cannabis storefront retail at 675 Paularino serves the surrounding neighborhood, mitigates any tenant relocation concerns, and is compatible with surrounding uses. We plan to occupy 2,992 square feet in the west end of the 8,060 square foot multi-tenant strip center. We are conforming to zoning and the intent of the general plan. There will be 35 parking spaces on site, which exceeds the minimum required by Costa Mesa parking standards. Our surrounding uses are all commercial, and as you can see on the diagram to the right, neighbors include a Chevron gas station, Garf Sports Bar, Yoroko Cafe, Mitsuya, and the Hilton Hotel. Next slide, please. Thoughtful integration into the strip center, minimizing tenant displacement, is especially important to both Emerald Property Group and Shrine Group. A tenant relocation plan was put together by Emerald Property Group as we entered into our lease to ensure no neighborhood businesses were permanently displaced or leave the city of Costa Mesa. On the top portion of the diagram, you can see the existing tenant layout, which is 7-Eleven, 2 vacant suites where a former drop-off dry cleaner and chiropractor used to operate, East-West Hair Salon, Ango Te, Sushi, and Tranquil Thai Massage. Through natural tenant attrition, Kona Cleaners did not renew their lease, and the chiropractor retired. For us to occupy the 3 suites on the end cap, the only tenants that are being required to relocate are Tranquil Thai Massage and Ango Te Sushi. Tranquil Thai is relocating to the other side of the shopping center where they will be built out a new space, and Ango Te Sushi is moving into a space across the street at 3033 Bristol, which is also owned and managed by Emerald Property Group. Next slide. Oh, sorry. At no point, tenants will be permanently displaced from their community, and there will be no disruptions to their business. The exterior was recently improved by the property owners, which includes a new facade design, paint and overhang, and lights. We are not making any structural additions or changes, and as part of our improvement plans, we intend to do modest landscape improvements, lighting upgrades, and updating the existing trash enclosure and adding a bicycle rack. Next slide, please. The photometric study shown in this slide shows that we will have adequate lighting throughout the parcel. We intend to do lighting upgrades on the side of the building, which will improve the lighting where vehicular traffic leads to Mitsuya. Next slide, please. Parking and traffic management is extremely important to us. We take great care in making sure our customers have an efficient, safe experience, and we are good neighbors. We have experience operating retail in very constrained areas, such as Union Square in San Francisco and downtown Los Angeles, to more suburban shopping centers, such as our store in Waldemar. In analyzing the existing conditions, the agreements in place, and talking with neighbors, we are confident that parking or traffic will not be an issue. Per the parking standards established by the city, we are actually de-intensifying the overall parking required for the site compared to the previous uses. We have discussed scenarios with a third-party parking and traffic management company that we use called Concierge Car Wash and Valet, who does traffic and parking management for us at some of our Southern California stores. Concierge is properly insured and employs qualified and trained parking attendants. Looking at our site, there are 2 main points of ingress-egress, and that should minimize any traffic pinch points. If traffic or parking is an issue, we will likely place a traffic attendant that can monitor both points of ingress-egress to guide traffic to the closest available parking spot. Next slide, please. We plan to have approximately a 1,947 square foot retail floor. The retail floor is the only portion of the premises where customers have access, as can be seen on the diagram on the slide. The back of house will consist of a manager's office, employee break room, and secured inventory room. Before customers enter the premises, a security guard or employee will do a quick ID check. After that, the customers will get to the reception area where their ID will be checked through a state compliance system. After that, they'll be allowed to enter the sales floor. Once they arrive at a POS, a retail associate will assist them in making a purchase and check their ID one more time. At no time will customers be allowed to physically touch product after a sale is made, as product is always behind secure glass enclosures. This design and procedure has led to 0 thefts and compliance infractions by customers from our operational retail stores. Additional security measures include panic buttons throughout the premises and security cameras throughout the interior and exterior, and at least 1 security guard. Product delivery will happen on the westmost door, which is not where customers enter or exit. Next slide, please. We take pride in our quality build-outs. Here are a couple interior build-outs of some recent stores. Next slide, please. In addition to the security upgrades that we will be doing, there's a very robust security process that we put in place to ensure no thefts and that customers and neighbors are safe. We will always have at least one security guard 24/7. Our camera system has up to 90-day playback, which police will always have access to. In addition, we have 24/7 CCTV monitoring that's monitored off-site. Next slide, please. All our retail stores' HVAC systems are upgraded with carbon filtration systems that prevent any odors from being noticed outside. We also have standard operating procedures to check that our inventory is properly packaged and sealed so there is no odor seepage from packages. 2 employees are required to walk outside the store twice a day to confirm there are no odors outside. Next slide, please. Community engagement and input is important to us. We held 4 open houses at our proposed location. For each open house, we sent mailers notifying everyone within a 500-foot radius in both Spanish and English. Through both these open houses and neighborhood canvassing, we introduced our community to the neighbors and the surrounding community. As a result, we were able to get over 40 signatures of support from residents and businesses, including our immediate neighbors, Tranquil Thai, Angote Sushi, and East West Hair Salon. We also received letters of support from other local businesses, including Dive in Photo, Halal Guys, and East West Hair. Next slide. A little bit about the community benefits we do. We as a company have given almost $2 million in statewide contributions. We've also made contributions to local and regional foundations and nonprofits such as Power One Foundation, OC Food Bank, Illumination Foundation, and most recently Mercy House, who operates a shelter for the unhoused located within the same district. In addition, all employees are given paid time off to volunteer through a program called Joint Efforts that organizes support for local events and cleanups. We intend to leverage this program and volunteer with a few of these local nonprofits. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate your time here tonight. Here to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Rojas, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you for your presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Toller.
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, how about Commissioner Vivar, questions?
Oh, all right, yeah. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Pai and your colleague. I do have a couple questions. So it seems like you're a very big company and lots of experience. So it's great that we have an operator who wants to open in Costa Mesa who knows what they're doing in the industry. However, I am curious as to what the business decision was on opening a second location in Costa Mesa, and if there are any differences between the 2 retail locations in Costa Mesa that you plan to operate.
Cool. No, thank you. We, first, we're very excited and humbled about the opportunity to open up our, our business here and operations. First, we did that store in Harbor in partnership with Carvana. So this is one store that we're gonna is 100% owned by Shrine Group. Second is we do feel like this it serves a different trade area, if you will. It's on another part of town. It's closer to Santa Ana, Newport Beach, and we just feel like it serves a different part of the neighborhood and community. Third, when we open up in cities, it does help us to have multiple stores. We have a significant employee benefits load, and we do a lot of community involvement in terms of nonprofits, volunteer, and just when we have multiple stores within a city, it just helps us scale just better operationally. That's...
Okay, I see. Regarding the outreach that you performed in your before coming to Planning Commission, you did say that you had some community meetings and received those letters of support, which we received as commissioners in our packets. I'm not sure if you're aware of a comment letter from a building owner at, I believe it's 688 Paularino, who expressed concerns about you guys coming in. So I'm just curious as to whether or not you spoke with Mr. Kim, who wrote that letter, and whether or not you were able to come to some understanding.
So, I haven't seen that letter, but I will say we noticed out within, within a 500-foot radius for all these meetings. And so it's I haven't, we did do a lot of direct outreach. Do you, in fact, know who the property, who the business owner is?
I believe his name is Mr. Kim. He's an owner for a nearby commercial building. So he's the building owner who also owns a multi-tenant commercial building, I think similar to the ones that you guys are wanting to get into. And it may be that the letter was received today and you didn't have a chance to look at it, but I was just curious. So.
Okay. We noticed, we tried, but this
Sure, of
this
course.
may have.
Yeah, definitely. And last question, you mentioned in your presentation a comment about mitigating relocation concerns for existing tenants. So I think that, one, I want to give you kudos for making sure that whatever tenants were there are being helped in relocating. So because I think for us as a city, keeping existing businesses in the city when they relocate is a great thing. But I am curious as to what the help was, if you're able to elaborate and expand a bit more on whether or not the businesses were only given help with finding a new location, or if they were compensated for the moving process, which, as you may know, isn't cheap.
So, I mean, they didn't have to find a spot on their own. So, Tranquil Thai is moving within the Shame Shopping Center, and the landlord is building out their space for them. And so, their business isn't going to be disrupted operationally. And then Ango Taste Sushi is moving to 3033 Bristol, which is still owned by Emerald, the same property owner. And they're moving into a space as well. That's going to be a formerly built out restaurant as well.
And my understanding from speaking with the landlord is that it was an opportune situation for these tenants to move into a remodeled and newly built out a new space. And so I think the landlord worked closely with the tenants to make sure that the business disruption was minimal. I think they picked a time of the year when business was slower than usual, and my understanding was that because of the great business relationship our landlord has with these tenants, the tenants voluntarily and happily moved to these new locations, as evidenced by the letter of support. As far as compensation, I'm not aware of any. I think it was just a situation where people had solid relationships. And in my view, I think that was a win-win for everyone. Thank you.
I see. Thank you both for your comments and for engaging with me and for your presentation tonight. And that's it from me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Arith, questions?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Mr. Sato and Mr. Pai, for the presentation. I do appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and extend some of the questions from what my fellow commissioner just asked right now. I guess I'm a little bit curious to know why you would want to pick a location that was already occupied by a tenant.
Well, I think initially we had been speaking with the landlord about just one location, one of the units, and it started out with that kind of conversation. We saw this great location, but it was just one unit, and we went back and forth, and we obviously also had, and I think as Commissioner Vivar alluded to, there's been situations in other cities where tenants were not forced out, but had to be kind of paid off or paid out in order for them to move. We made it clear that we don't want a situation where the parties, the tenants are kind of have to be paid or forced out in any way. And so, the discussions, I think that the landlord had already been in discussions about building out new locations for these tenants. And so just naturally, the conversation proceeded where while we were considering whether to go with this location or another location, in parallel, the landlord was talking to these two tenants who were very open to moving. And so I think, we may or may probably wouldn't have picked this location if not for the fact that we had two tenants with good relationships with the landlord who were, very cooperative and happy to move to their new locations.
Okay, thank you very much. And second question, if you could elaborate a little bit on the community outreach that you did in terms of the open houses, and do you have a record of any of the responses from the community, good, bad, or indifferent?
So the way we did our open houses is we sent two mailers out. For each mailer, they had 2 dates listed to the two open houses. And we kind of just did it where we're going to be here from, I want to say 5 to 7 p.m. And we're out there, we set up a tent, and, we had beverages, and it was just mostly like an informal discussion with community members about the location, and it was just generally it was favorable. Folks were excited about the company. They knew our brand, and it was generally a favorable response. We're not directly adjacent to any residential here, so that was good.
Thank you. Did you receive any constructive feedback in those exercises from the community to where it may have augmented your approach to opening up here or so forth?
Actually, we actually did hear from some of the tenants that they were looking for the fact that we were going to have security guards on site because apparently some of the visitors of the Hilton across the street actually park, I don't know if it's illegally, but park at this location and take up a lot of spots for the customers of the 7-Eleven and the restaurant and the other tenants because it's free to park here as opposed to parking across the Hilton. And so as far as Cyrus said, that was one particular comment that I remember that they were very excited about from the fact that we would be on the lookout for people that were actually visiting Hilton or other establishments, and they asked us to be on the lookout so that we can help preserve the parking spots for the tenants at this location.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think that's all for me, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, quick question from me. Do you know, and I'll ask staff this question, is Mr. McGuire, who owns the property, the exterior improvements to the building, those are underway or already completed and been permitted? And then are you doing tenant improvements to the spaces you tend to occupy? And will you be pulling permits for those? I'm trying to figure something out in my head here.
Yeah, so the external facade improvements that Kevin and Emerald Property Group was done through a separate permit administratively. Assuming we get our CUP approved, then we'll process the building permit
Okay,
separately
that's what I understand. Okay,
TI, yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. May you have a seat? We'll open up the public comment portion of the public hearing. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak to this item, please come forward to either podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then we'll move to folks who are on Zoom or on telephone. Yes, sir. Good evening.
How's it going? My name is Andrew Batchelor. I'm a resident of Costa Mesa, and I was driving down Paul Arena the other day, and I saw the open house thing, so I stopped in, and it seemed like a really cool spot and good location, and I've heard a lot of good things about them as a company, so I think they'll do really well there.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Okay, anyone on Zoom or telephone? Oh, go ahead, come ahead, sir. Hold on, Anna, we've got one more. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mike Wong. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I currently work in Costa Mesa as an accountant, and I also started a small business. I'm here today to voice my support for Stizzy Store on Paularino. Ever since I was going to community college around this area, I've always frequented that plaza, and I believe that this would be a very good location for the Stizzy front. Yeah, I think it'll be a great location. It'll be next to a grocery store and other businesses where people like to eat and shop at. It's also very close location-wise to me, and as a small business owner and accountant, I understand there's a lot of hurdles and permits to get things up and running. I didn't realize how long the cannabis application actually was until I talked to someone in the outreach booth that day. And I appreciate Stizzy's commitment to this process. I've been using their products for a long time. I prefer their products for pain relief as opposed to some very strong pharmaceuticals that may have other side effects. As an accountant, paying taxes is very important to me, and I know with this location, it'll generate additional revenue for the city of Costa Mesa. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir, please come forward. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jason Ball, managing member of 675 Paularino Emerald.
Mr. Ball, if I could have you pull the microphone just a little bit closer to you. Thank you.
I'm here to provide my support of Stizzy and their operation. My partner Kevin and I just completed this facade renovation, and it looks very similar to the rendering here and the architects here, and we're really proud of it and how it turned out. When we acquired this asset, we had no intention of putting in a cannabis use. We're retail shopping center operators, and for 20 plus years, I've never operated a center with that type of use. And the zoning enabled us to accommodate the use, and we're very excited to have Stizzy after sifting through multiple applicants and interested parties, probably over 350 interested parties. And we feel like they're the most professional and have a great track record and will be a great addition to the property. The re-merchandising of the asset and the configuration of the space, it's really just business planning and what you inherit when you acquire a property. Depends on the tenant's leases and so forth. And so we really are conscientious about working with the existing tenants and where we can place them, and strategically, and how it would be best for the property. And so I hope we get your support, and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to this item? Okay, anyone on Zoom or telephone, Anna?
Caller ending in 398, you may provide your public comment.
Perfect. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Samantha, and I'm a resident of Costa Mesa in the Wimbledon community, which is close by to the proposed location. I'm calling in to voice my support for Stizzy. Personally, I don't consume cannabis, but I do have many friends that consume it recreationally and responsibly. I mean, I would prefer not to have a cannabis store in my city, but since Costa Mesa is allowing them to open, I would much rather have a reputable retailer like Stizzy here. So I spoke with the reps at the open house a few weeks ago when I was at Nitsawa, and I decided to look them up afterwards. I noticed that they also give back to communities that they are a part of and assist them with, experiencing homelessness, which is a cause I'm passionate about. So I know they're one of the best brands in California, and it helps that they have nice, fancy storefronts. So if the city wants to allow cannabis stores in Costa Mesa, then I think we should only choose the best operators. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Anna?
No, there's not, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
we'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Ask any of the commissioners if they have any additional questions of the applicant or staff. Commissioner Rojas, any? Commissioner Toller? Commissioner Russell? Okay. Commissioner Arith, any more questions or comments? Okay. Commissioner Vivar? All right, I have none, so we'll close the public hearing. And let me move up to the chair. The chair is going to make a motion. Chair moves that the Planning Commission finds that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1 existing facility, and approved planning application 21-33, subject to the findings in Exhibit A and conditions of approval in Exhibit B. Is there a second? There is, by Commissioner Russell. Maker of the motion has comment. Obviously a first-class operator. I recall their application and the presentation they made for their Harbor Boulevard property. I agree with the last speaker. If we're going to have retail cannabis industry in Costa Mesa, we want them to be the best of the best and reputable operators, and I think obviously Stizzy will be. So that's why I made the motion. Commissioner Russell, you want to comment on the?
Just to say that I'm pleased to see that the property owner took the time to find an alternative nearby location for Angote, which is a well-known, very good restaurant, and I'm glad to see that it's going to get to stay in the city. So I support this application.
Okay. Commissioner Rojas or Toller, any comments? Commissioner Rojas.
I just want to second that. I appreciate the efforts made to make sure that that business is preserved and moved to a site that's within a reasonable range, but that's key for the applications going forward. Also for future applicants, our concerns there. But that's it. Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Arith, comments on the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting the motion this evening. I would like to applaud Shrine Group for the presentation tonight. I think if anyone wants to know, your presentations are A+. And I think it really stands out as a standard. Your responses to the questions in terms of just checking all the boxes in terms of, displacement questions or public outreach, all A+. And by extension, same thing for the last time you came to us for your first application. So thank you, Chair. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Vivar, comments on the motion?
Yes, sir. I too want to echo my colleague, Commissioner Arith, on the willingness to engage with our questions. I do appreciate you answering my questions, and as my other colleagues on the commission have also said, I would like to thank you for going above and beyond and helping the businesses that were at the site to find a new place, if it is so that they are in fact finding having the opportunity to operate their businesses at better, nicer locations. I think that's great for those businesses and for the community and those who frequent those businesses. So I do want to thank you for that. And while this your business does plan to occupy 3 units out of the 6 in this building, I am a bit concerned about the mix of uses, and in that I would hate to see the local serving commercial buildings tending towards a certain kind of industry or store product in terms of financial health of the community. But again, I do want to thank you for engaging with the landlord and with the existing tenants and helping them find new uses. I do want to encourage you to reach out to the building owner who owns, I believe it's the commercial building at 688 Polarino, who has his own set of tenants. If you are able to look at the public comments that came in today, they have their contact information there. So I encourage you to reach out to them and have that conversation going with them so that you can have the best relationship possible, not only with the landlord that you're working with now, but with surrounding building owners and landlords. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll call for the question. Commissioners, please cast your vote on your screen.
That motion carries 6-0 with Vice Chair Zick absent.
Okay, very good. That decision is final in 7 days unless it's appealed to the City Council. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck. Okay, we'll let everybody settle down here a little bit. Okay, Anna, please read public hearing item number 2 into the record.
Public hearing item number 2, planning application 21-34 for a retail cannabis storefront business located at 2332 Newport Boulevard, Flower Factory. Please note we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Commissioner Areth, any ex parte communications report?
Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you. Based off of one of the comment letters from today, I decided to hold about a 10-minute call with Chris Fuel, and that's all.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vivar.
I received an email from the applicant's representative, but unfortunately was not able to respond to their email in time for the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rojas, any communications report?
None, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Toller?
Nope.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes, I had a short conversation with the applicant's representative at the property.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I have none to report, so we'll turn it over to Ms. Nguyen. Ms. Halligan's not here this evening, so I've figured
Ms. Halligan will be presenting. She is presenting via Zoom.
Oh, okay, very
but
good.
I am here as backup to help.
Sorry, Michelle, didn't mean to overlook you. Good evening.
Good evening. Can everyone see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, let's see. Anna and perhaps Brenda, is it possible for them to ensure that my screen's being shared at the moment? So I've been invited as a panelist by Zoom.
Yeah, so I don't have the Zoom screen in front of me, so I can't see if you're on or not.
We have the presentation, Michelle, so if you want to just give it, Nancy can provide each slide.
Okay, so I'll say next, okay?
Thank you.
Very good.
All right, good evening, Chair DeErico and Commissioners. I'm Michelle Halligan, Contract Planner. Next. Planning Application 21-34 is a request for a conditional use permit to establish a retail cannabis storefront. The applicant is not proposing delivery to customers. The proposed business name is Flower Factory. Next. The applicant successfully completed the initial application steps, including pre-application and cannabis business permit application, before submitting a conditional use permit application. If the CUP is approved tonight, the applicant would next obtain building permits, pass inspections, obtain a CBP, and a local business license, all prior to opening. Next. The proposed storefront is located at 2332 Newport Boulevard, a mid-block location between Wilson Street and 23rd Street. The C1 Local Business District property is surrounded on two sides by C1 properties. There is an alley in the rear. On the other side of the alley are residential developments zoned R2 MD, multiple family residential district, medium density. The front of the property faces Newport Boulevard and the 55 freeway. If approved, the storefront would occupy the entire commercial building. Next. Here are some photos of the existing conditions. The previous use was a car rental business that operated with only one outdoor display vehicle. As you can see, the showroom style building spans the entire width of the property. 5 vehicles can park in the front setback along Newport Boulevard, but those vehicles would also have to back out onto Newport Boulevard. Vehicles can also currently enter and exit through a vehicle gate in the alley. Next. The existing property has legal non-conforming parking, landscaping, side setback, and floor area ratio. The applicant proposes to reduce the size of the structure from approximately 3,800 square feet to 2,000 square feet. Reducing the building footprint provides the opportunity to conform with the side setback, landscaping, and parking. A new two-way drive aisle would provide on-site circulation. Other exterior improvements include 1 new wall, new windows, and 2 new doors. As conditioned, a detailed landscaping plan would be reviewed during the building permit process. As conditioned, the existing vehicle gate along the alley would be closed to customers. Other proposed improvements include installing bicycle racks, shielded security lighting, and resurfacing and restriping the parking lot. A detailed lighting plan would be reviewed during the plan check process. Next. This conceptual rendering demonstrates that the applicant proposes to reduce the building size to create a two-way drive aisle, add landscaping, bike racks, and create a safer parking configuration that does not require anyone to back out onto Newport Boulevard. It does show some signs, but note that all signs will be processed through a separate permit per the municipal code. Next. The proposed establishment would occupy the entire building. The proposed floor plan includes 2 major areas, the retail sales area and a back of the house area. The retail sales area is shown in green. The remainder of the building would be dedicated to employee only uses. Vendors would be required to enter through a limited access door, well accompanied by an employee with the proper security credentials. Next. The applicant provided a detailed business plan that was evaluated by the city's cannabis consultant. It is not attached to the staff report because it contains proprietary details. The business plan describes the owner's professional experience, proof of capitalization, pro forma, and day-to-day operations. Next. The applicant also provided a professionally prepared security plan that was reviewed by Costa Mesa's cannabis consultant. The consultant determined that the appropriate security measures were taken and they addressed city and state requirements. Next. There are more than 50 standard conditions of approval for Measure Q uses. For example, there are age restrictions, on-site consumption is prohibited. They have to also comply with state regulations and cannabis business permit renewal requirements. Next. There are also site-specific conditions of approval to ensure that the new parking lot and new drive aisle and landscaping is completed. There's also a condition of approval to ensure that the vehicle gate in the alley, which currently is open, would remain closed to customers. And we would also establish a time limit for use of the exterior trash enclosure. Next. Staff finds that the proposed project complies with all three of the required findings for a conditional use permit. Next. So with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find the project categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA guideline section 15301, class 1, existing facilities, and approve planning application 21-34, subject to conditions of approval. The applicant's agent has also prepared a presentation for the commission. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Halligan. Commissioner Rojas, do you have any questions of staff?
Just a simple one. I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, but thank you very much, Ms. Halligan, for that. What I wanted to ask was, with the closing of the rear gate, then in the reconfiguration of the building, the only access would be the entry and exit would be on Newport Boulevard. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And we planning went over this with transportation as well as fire. And so fire would remain their special access to the gate in the rear through what's called a Knox box.
Okay, that's it. That's the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Tuller, questions?
No questions.
Okay, Commissioner Russell?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Vivar?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Halligan, for the great presentation. Is our transportation representative here? I have a couple transportation related questions.
Yes, Ms. Rosales, she's Jennifer's joining us at the podium at the moment. Good evening. Go ahead, Commissioner Vivar.
Good evening. Thank you for being here today. I do have a couple questions. So I believe that the driveway width is 20 feet along Newport Boulevard. Is that correct? Two-way driveway?
Commissioner Vivar, according to the site plan, it's 25 feet.
Okay. So the new proposed drive aisle, I believe that there will be parking, like parallel parking along the wall on the outer edge of the property. How much of a driveway width would that leave in the drive, or how much of a drive aisle width would that leave for vehicles wanting to get through that drive aisle through the parked cars in the building?
Commissioner Vivar, it's 20 feet.
20 feet. Okay. With the proposed ADA parking in the front of the building, would the drive aisle or the access for cars entering the site along the Newport Boulevard driveway to the drive aisle, would that be blocked at all by the parked ADA vehicle?
Commissioner Vivar, no, it would not.
No. Okay. In the event that there's a delivery or a garbage truck vehicle in the back, would a vehicle still have enough on-site turning space to leave the site, or would they have to wait for the garbage or delivery vehicle to be able to make that turn to leave the site without having to back out into Newport?
Commissioner Vivar, Transportation reviewed the site plan, and the aisle widths all meet our requirements, and there is room to turn around.
And that includes the back part. So from what I understand, the turning spaces in the back, right? The back of the building.
Yeah, that's correct. And
Okay.
yes, and from the presentation, it sounds like the trash collection would be coordinated as well.
Oh, okay.
And which I'm not sure how often the trash is picked up, but it's probably once a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, since I didn't have a chance to look back there, I was just curious. I don't know how crowded it was back there, but I think that's it. I don't think I have any more concerns.
One other response to your question, Commissioner Vivar, is most likely the trash truck wouldn't enter the site when they were picking up trash. They'd probably just stop real quickly, open up the fence or gate, and put the trash in and get out.
Okay.
So yeah, going in and out of each one of those sites would probably take an extensive amount of time, which they probably wouldn't want to do.
Sure, of course. Actually, that brings me to one last question I just remembered. So there is the door along the side of the building is proposed facing the drive aisle, which I'm a little bit worried about, but I think it should be okay. I believe that a sidewalk is planned to be constructed along the building in front of the door. How wide would that sidewalk be?
Commissioner Vivar, it's Michelle Halligan. They're proposing a 5-foot wide sidewalk. And then obviously, if approved, the plans would go through the full plan check process in which the building division could determine that they may need to configure the doors differently to ensure that that's 5 feet remains clear.
Right, and then so that sidewalk would also have, I'm guessing, an ADA access for ADA. Although, well, that makes me wonder: will that sidewalk extend to the access point that's supposed to be for the ADA parking in the back?
There is one accessible entrance in the front by the accessible stall.
Okay.
And then there's an accessible entrance on the side. And then there's a limited access, so that means employee only door towards the rear, but that is also designed to be accessible. And then during plan check, that's when building would, dig deeper and ensure that the style of door that they're choosing is adequate to ensure that it's not blocked.
Sure. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Ms. Halligan, and thank you, Ms. Rosales and Mr. Drapkin. I think that's it for my questions for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Aris. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Rosales, I'm so sorry if you can come back up. It's very nice to see you here this evening, by the way. By extension of Commissioner Vivar's question just a minute ago. So it's to my understanding that the rough angle of cars that are parking along the long side of the property are coming at about a 45-degree angle. And in order to get back out and egress, they have to go to the back of the property and then turn around and then go back out to Newport Boulevard. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this because it appears that for the, I don't know, however many spaces we have, what is it, 8 or so? That they're all going to have to pull out, go to all the way to the back of the property, turn around, and it would appear that it would create a pinch, not a pinch point, but just kind of a mess in the back of the property. Is that something that you considered when looking at these renderings as well?
Commissioner Harris, great question. We did look at, make sure that met the adequate turnaround space in the back. And then looking at the peak hour traffic volumes projected for the site, we didn't see it as an issue based on the peak hour volumes that we've estimated.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because I noticed in the report that there was no traffic impact fee associated with this site yet. I mean, if we know what the projected number of vehicles are going to be to this site, can we not also calculate the traffic impact fee as well?
Commissioner Erath, yes, we can.
Okay. Do we know, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do we know approximately what that might be?
I do have it in front of me. So Commissioner Erath, it would be approximately 25,000.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think those are all the questions I have for you, Ms. Rosales. Thank you so much. And then I do have some additional staff questions as well, Mr. Drapkin and Ms. Halligan.
One clarification that might be helpful too, as well as when a parallel vehicle leaves their spot, they have approximately 9 feet to back into that spot, and then the additional 20 feet in width of the alley. So it's possible that they could choose not to turn all the way and go back into the rear of the parking lot and use their own space as a turnaround. That was kind of what I was thinking when we were originally envisioning the parking lot. So I don't know if all users will decide to make that turning movements, but I think it is possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Drapkin. I'll go ahead and ask a few additional questions. I appreciate everyone's patience up here, so thank you. I noticed on page 3 of the agenda report that the subject property was previously occupied by a car rental business. Was that car rental business in business at the time of the intention to make this a cannabis retail site?
Commissioner Erath, no, it was not.
Okay, thank you. And let's see here. If we go to page 9 of the agenda report, under some of the bullet points, it says free samples of cannabis goods are prohibited. And I know it's somewhat common for there to be a buy one, get one for a penny kind of situation in this industry. So is the cannabis, say it's an additional eighth for a penny, if it's sold for a penny, are we still making the tax revenue based on the full retail price, or are we making 7% of 1 penny?
Commissioner Erath, I believe that question would apply to all of our cannabis applicants.
Absolutely.
But the note in that bullet point is just intended to alleviate concerns that have been expressed that people would be able to take free samples and not go through the correct purchasing process.
Thank you. So let's say that there is a come in on your birthday and get an additional eighth for 1 penny. How would that additional eighth be taxed? Would it be based on the full retail price or not?
Commissioner Erath, I can help answer that question. I can help Ms. Halligan. And also, I believe the applicant probably will be able to clarify much better than we can. Okay. But I believe the tax is based on the whole total amount of the purchase. Gross receipts.
Gross receipts. Okay.
But I believe the applicant will be able to clarify further for you.
Okay. I'll be circling back to that. If we move on to... Let's see. In attachment number 2, page 21, second paragraph down. If you can explain to me why we are not allowing traffic to go back to the rear alley. I'm not sure if I heard that during the presentation, Ms. Halligan.
Oh, great question. Thank you for that. So at present, the gate is open to vehicles coming and going, but it was a different type of use. And so now that the use will be retail, we felt that it was important to have the vehicle gate be closed with the exception of, necessities for emergencies and property maintenance. Okay. There are residential uses on the other side of the alley. And although other businesses do have access to the alley, we did not feel that given there's, over 30 feet in some of those turnaround areas, there wasn't the need to have the cannabis storefront customers coming and going through that alley.
Okay, and I thank you for that explanation. I think one of the reasons why I'm asking that is when I put that into relationship on to the page 36 in the conditional use permit letter for site improvements. The applicant said basically redesigning the driveway and opening access to the back would improve site circulation, allowing vehicles to enter from Newport Boulevard and exit to the rear, eliminating the requirement to back into Newport Boulevard. So there was some language that appeared to carry over before there was a determination. Is that right? Ms.
Correct.
Halligan?
We had some back and forth with the applicant, and then we needed to meet with transportation and fire to get everyone on the same page.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Halligan, thank you so much. Ms. Nguyen, thank you. Mr. Chair, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to go back to the parking field. So some of the renderings show angled parking. The site plan shows parallel parking, tandem parking, whatever you want to call it. Which one is it going to be? Do we know?
Yes, Chairman. The conceptual renderings were ordered before they changed the parking plan to be parallel.
And the applicant changed it, or that was a request of staff?
It was a request of staff. And so since then, they may have provided, they're here to provide their own presentation, and they may have updated renderings, but staff prepared this in advance.
What was the staff's reasoning for requiring the parallel parking configuration versus the angled parking?
It allowed the drive aisle to be wider, and so that there was a larger turnaround area. It just overall was more successful. We did lose some landscaping by making that change, but because the property is going from 0 square feet of landscaping, we felt comfortable with making this change. It's just a preferred alternative for on-site circulation.
And this may be for Ms. Rosales, in terms of the dimensions of the parallel parking spaces, 18 feet in length, it's like 4 feet between spaces. Is that common for tandem parking configurations?
Chair, why Ms. Rosales is walking up to the podium, I'd like to add one information. The purposes of the change from the angled parking to the parallel parking were also to create a larger width of drive aisle so two-way access can be performed. And that basically was necessitated based on not having the access to the alleyway. So by preventing the alleyway access, it required two-way driveway circulation. So that was really the primary reason why the configuration of the original proposal by the applicant went from angled to parallel.
Okay. And with so the concept is, I suppose a customer could approach these parallel parking spaces one of two ways. They could drive all the way to the back, pull a U, and then park so they're headed out towards Newport, which means they just do they flip the U coming in versus going out. So from a design standpoint, is that back area where folks are going to be, well, let me put it this way. So if you're in space 5, 6, 7, or 7, with that 20-foot space between the edge of the sidewalk and the parking space, you're not able, what do you do? Can you do a 2 or 3 point turn in there between the sidewalk and your parking space to get out, or do you have to go to the back?
Chairman, I believe it depends on your vehicle. Personally, I would go to the rear and turn around. Personally, I would go to the rear and turn around where they have separation distances of 32 feet, where there's plenty of space.
Right, I see that.
But if you are driving a Mini, perhaps you would do something different.
Of course. Okay. Well, it's going to be an interesting challenge for car number 9, particularly if somebody's in space number 8.
So I do want to remind the commission that those stalls are drawn to code.
No, I understand. Stalls can be drawn to code. I'm just trying to figure out from a site planning perspective. In my mind, I'm still up in the air whether or not this parking lot works for me, but that's why I'm kind of going through the mental exercise and having you push back on me. So that's fine. I just want to make sure I understand this because it seems like it could be problematic, but I'm not convinced
Chair,
of
just
that yet.
one thing to
Yes.
point out is the spaces are 18 feet plus 4 on either side. So it's quite a bit of space, possibly not for a full-size truck, but definitely for an average car. I think there's plenty of room to do a parallel parking. It definitely meets the requirements of the code. But like you said, it's probably not ideal for that last space, but it certainly works.
Okay.
In staff's opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Ms. Rosales. Thank you very much. Okay, those are all the questions I have at the moment. We'll open the public hearing. Ask the applicant to come forward. State your name and address for the record, please, sir. And I'll ask if you've read the staff report, conditions of approval, and if you agree with them.
Good evening, Honorable Commissioners and staff. My name is Christopher Glue, and I have read and reviewed the conditions of approval, and we accept all those conditions.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. I don't know who's controlling the slide presentation, if it's Michelle or Nancy. Thank you. Well, again, do we have it up? Or there it is. Okay, thank you. Again, good evening, Honorable Commission and staff. It's my privilege to present to you this evening on behalf of Flower Factory. Thank you again to Michelle. I know she was out ill today, but she did an excellent job in contributing to our presentation this evening. She's also done a great job of highlighting the project and addressing each aspect of our proposal. I will now provide a brief supplemental overview for you, and we have also made available our entire ownership staff and operating crew for any questions or comments you may have. If you could go to slide 2, please. This project is located at 2332 Newport Boulevard on the southbound side. The site is ideally situated in the business strip, including our direct neighbors, Sushi Town, Chiropractor, and Hoover Printing. The goal for this location is to modernize the property, improve site circulation, eliminate the dangerous backing up of vehicles onto Newport Boulevard, adding California drought-tolerant landscaping, and of course, significantly reducing the floor area ratio. We were just about at 4,000 square feet originally, and we're cutting the building in half to 2,000 square feet. If you could go to slide 3, please. This project is an extension of the Measure X distribution license currently operating in good standing in the city of Costa Mesa. Flower Factory is a state-of-the-art modern manufacturing and distribution facility here in Costa Mesa. They currently employ 26 full-time workers. Flower Factory will now be a vertically integrated entity with their Coachella Valley cultivation and Costa Mesa retail coming online. This retail storefront will be supported by a fully vertical multi-state operation, the Marketplace retail team. Marketplace currently operates 2 retail storefront cannabis operations in the Southern California region in Lake Elsinore and Santa Ana. We will utilize our California supply chain with our cultivation and manufacturing license, and of course, our Costa Mesa-based distribution facility. The team has a robust roster of talent to draw from. We have assembled a diverse leadership team to navigate the operations. The company successfully employs over 50 individuals in all aspects of the cannabis sector. With an emphasis on local hiring, the company has succeeded in building strong relationships in the communities we're in. The leadership team draws on a variety of backgrounds and diverse leadership perspectives. Brandon Perkis will utilize his Costa Mesa-based operational experience and distribution supply chain to support operations. Joseph Martin will perform the CEO duties and is excited to integrate his marketing and diversity programs he has pioneered. Alex Wong, alongside Ty Riley, will provide leadership drawing on their vast cannabis experience as a model for future success. If you could go to slide 4. Commissioners, this slide reflects a proposal for our exterior and interior design. Our goal here is to maintain the ideal existing conditions with improved features. We'd like to update the structure, improve traffic flow, and modernize landscaping. Our goal is to have a design and functionality the city of Costa Mesa can be proud of. If you could go to slide 5, please. This slide here shows a current footprint and helps illustrate the need for modernization. Traffic around the site will be managed by our staff as well. Team members have already completed the training and received certification in traffic control and flagging. The training was provided under California Manual of Traffic Control, Part 6, consistent with the Cal OSHA standards. Our 3 staff members all scored over 94% on the exam. The flagger training has prepared them to responsibly manage traffic flow to eliminate any potential congestion and help ensure traffic flow is consistent with our model for success. Additionally, the parking attendant will assist security staff in maintaining a litter-free environment and assist with compliance measures outside of the storefront. If you could go to slide 6, please. Our company's main operational mantra is community first. We understand to be successful in the community, we must work with our neighbors to minimize impact and maximize benefit. The city requires a 500-foot radius for mailers to the surrounding community. Our team mailed twice in English and Spanish, inviting input and providing email and telephone contact information. Our street team went door to door to contact neighbors. Sorry, I thought someone else was talking. If you could go to slide 7. The team also mailed to 1,000 feet an invitation to our community outreach event held on site. The community event was on September 22nd, where we served food from a local food establishment. The parking lot was utilized to welcome all passersby. We received overwhelming support for our proposed storefront. Numerous residential neighbors attended, as well as local business owners. There was a definite excitement about our new enterprise as a value add to the community. Topics of discussion that night were our inclusion of a neighborhood watch program, local discounts, us providing an anchor tenant to the nearby businesses, and walkability and bikeability is a priority of our operations. If you could go to slide 8, please. Community support is important to our organization to ensure that we give back to the community that supports us. We have a foundation that was established to provide opportunities for the less fortunate members of the communities we serve. We're a proud supporter of a local Costa Mesa gym, Triunfo Jiu-Jitsu. We have a scholarship program that allows free memberships and competition fees for income-challenged residents of Costa Mesa. We see this as an opportunity to provide for access to physical fitness and athletic achievement. We are working to establish partnerships with local organizations to educate and encourage our customers to help make Costa Mesa a more walkable and bikeable community. We are committed to charity and engagement in the community. We attend and support local community organizations and are actively seeking additional relationships with local charities. The emphasis at this location will be on walkable and bikeable community projects. If you could go to slide 9. Our team will be creative in the ways we engage our customers and add value as a trusted retailer. We intend to focus on decreasing vehicle traffic by impact by heavily promoting and encouraging walking and cycling. We're installing expanded bike racks with security and traffic flaggers in place to protect the cyclist. We will hold regular bike and walk events, providing discounts to those who participate. In studying the city's bike map, we are confident that we can achieve high-value events that explore the local community and encourage our customers to utilize alternative means of transportation. If you could go to slide 10, please. Security is a mainstay of our operational platform. We pride ourselves on 360-degree monitored camera coverage and property-wide sweeping security personnel 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our security model is a layered system approach designed to prevent diversion, theft, and other potential impacts. All the security is designed by a highly credentialed security professional, Thomas Johnson, with extensive cannabis experience. Our contract security firm is veteran-owned and operated by Prior Service Security. If you could go to slide 11, please. We are dedicated to expanding our sphere of influence and helping to influence positive outcomes for local business neighbors struggling with a lack of site security. We have already discussed with some of our neighbors, some I see here tonight, specific concerns they need help with regarding evening loitering and drug use on their properties. In response to these concerns, we are proposing a neighborhood watch program focusing on the public areas adjacent to our storefront. I did have a couple answers for some questions that you had asked earlier too, and I thought I'd address those. For Commissioner Vivar, I actually can tell you that the trash pickup is conducted in the manner in which it was described. The trash trucks come down the alley and then remove the trash container, pull it out into the alley, and service the trash container in that manner. And then with regards to Commissioner Ereth, our gross receipts are what we understand to be taxed as a whole. I don't know if that helps clarify that at all. But that's the best I can do on answering that question for the time being. Thank you for your time this evening, commissioners and staff. The Flower Factory entire team is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Rojas, any questions of the applicant?
I have none, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Toller?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
I just have a couple of questions. One, I'm really curious to see how you're going to cut the building in half, but that's not what we're talking about. You're going to have 2 points of ingress for the public. Most of our locations have just had one, and the consumers go in and they're met at a desk. Are you going to have 2 desks, or are you going to just make?
We believe that they can come into that central location as they enter and still be serviced by one main desk.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vivar.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. So I want to follow up on my colleague's question, Commissioner Russell. I don't know if she was getting at this, but so somebody who parks at the ADA spot, if they enter the building through that door that's meant to serve them, they can then make their way from there to the main desk. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So since you mentioned about bikeability and walkability, how many bike racks do you plan to have on site? And
apologize. I sorry.
And where would you put them?
The bike rack will be, it's right in the front where it's located on the diagram. That will be the largest bike rack we can fit, which right now looks like it would hold about 10 to 11 bikes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And besides having these bike walk events, do you plan to have discounts or other things for your customers, or any benefits for your employees for walking/biking?
Yes, that is in fact correct. We do plan to offer benefits for people who choose alternative means of transportation to help alleviate congestion and help with traffic control, and also to encourage bikeability and walkability in the city of Costa Mesa.
I see. Okay, I believe that's all for now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time today, this evening.
Okay, Commissioner Ereth, questions of the applicant.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Glue, for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do have several questions this evening. I appreciate your responses moving forward. So your property abuts an alley that's shared with single-family and multifamily residential uses. During your public outreach and open house campaign, what did you receive in terms of feedback from the neighbors beyond just a neighborhood watch, as you mentioned?
Correct. Actually, the neighborhood watch was more an idea that was propagated by business owners. To be honest with you, we had a pack of young ladies that came up to us and addressed us right out of the right at the very beginning of the event, and indicated to us that they were very excited and didn't understand why it was taking so long for Costa Mesa to have legal cannabis shops, and they were just excited to see how quickly the storefront would open. During the course of the conversations, that was the bulk of the residential feedback that we received, was how soon and what kind of discount do we get for being a local resident. We did not receive any negative comments or feedback from people that identified themselves to be residents in the surrounding alleyway.
And that's both in person and in digital forms of communication as well?
Well, technically, we did get an email that we responded to. The gentleman's actually here tonight, Bill. We did respond to some comments by that business owner. We spent some time speaking with him over the holiday. Also spent some time.
Excuse me, sir, for a minute. Folks, if you need to have a conversation, could you go outside? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Bill, we did speak to him today for a little bit and address the specific concerns that he brought to our attention with regards to signage, some issues about parking, and other things of that nature.
Okay, great. Thank you. If we
and I did not have an opportunity to speak to Chris, the gentleman that you had an opportunity to speak with, so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, he sent an email in today for the public record, so you can review that in the record. If we turn to page 37, which is the conditional use permit letter that you submitted, at the top of that page, last sentence, it says the operation will implement a non-cash transaction option for retail that reduces the amount of cash to handle and corresponding threats. So I was under the impression that this is pretty much a cash-only business. So if you're not proposing cash, or in this case, you're proposing non-cash transaction, what exactly does that mean?
It's a debit card transaction. Our banking relationships do allow us to utilize debit card transactions. We have those relationships with our bank, both through the union, we have access through our credit union, and our private banking solutions allow for debit card transactions.
Okay, thank you. Right under that last sentence, we get into the subheading employees, and I'll go ahead and read it for you. It says, cannabis jobs are good paying jobs with opportunities for advancement and creation of careers. The team will look to hire from Orange Coast Community College due to success in hiring from this demographic that are in convenient proximity to our location.
Correct.
Have you gone to the extent of contacting Orange Coast College to see if that's even something that they're able to do, since they are federally funded and this is still a scheduled drug in the eyes of the federal government? So I'm not entirely sure if you can even advertise the position on campus.
We've been instructed by the college campus that they weren't seeking that type of relationship. I'll say that in the nicest, gentlest way I can.
Okay.
But the reality is that we can still try to, ascertain talent pools from the surrounding communities by having job fairs that are in the vicinity.
Okay, thank you. And going back to my earlier question about, buy an eighth, get an eighth for a penny, how exactly do you imagine that would be taxed? Or I don't know if this is a applicant/staff answer, but I'm still no clearer to understanding it. So
to be fair, it's not my expertise as to how the municipal tax law is structured. However, I will say this: I do understand that our gross receipts are what are taxed. In every city we are ever transacting business in, we always pay our tax based on a total gross receipts. So unfortunately, that's the best answer I can give you. I could certainly look for a better answer.
Yeah, so I'll maybe, if you want to, Mr. Dropkin.
No, I was going to say that I'm fairly certain that it is based on gross receipts, which would account for only the amount that they would pay on their bottom line of the receipt. However, I certainly could confirm that with the finance department if there wasn't some type of issue with product pricing. I really would doubt that they could do it based on a product price. It's more on the value of a receipt. That's what our retail receipts are taxed on for all other uses as well.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure, but I want to say that Santa Ana might calculate it differently in terms of actually charging the tax for the full retail price, even if it's sold for a penny, and they'll the tax that should be collected is $7 or something, it would still be collected as $7, even though it's only charged a penny, if you will.
Right, and that might be something that I should take up with the finance department, at least looking into as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think that's all from me, Mr. Glue. Mr. Chair, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, sir. At any given time, how many employees will be in the store?
It'd be 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
I'm excluding security staff that would be outside.
Okay. So how many parking spaces do you imagine those employees will take up? 2 to
Honestly,
3 plus the security.
We're still trying to achieve a 0 on that. We're trying to arrange for alternative transportation methods by shuttling employees over from our large lot that's being utilized for blood drives and for the California Beamer experience. So we have a lot of parking over there, and we're looking for creative ways to utilize it.
Okay. All right, I think that'll do it for me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and open public comment on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the item, please come forward to either one of the podiums. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone in the audience wish to speak to this item? Yes, sir, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Thanks for having us here. Richard Austin, 135 Wilson Street. My questions come as to the neighborhood is very difficult parking. Wilson Street, if you travel Wilson Street, it's horrid. We have 3 rehab houses on Wilson Street within less than a quarter of a mile. I can imagine a cannabis facility would do great with 3 rehab houses within a quarter of a mile. I kind of find issue in the thought process of why we would put one item next to a group of people that are struggling so hard and trying to find different opportunities. It's really confusing for me to kind of put my brain around that and why we want to put 2 items so opposite of each other in such close proximity. That alleyway is a very, very difficult alleyway to travel. And Newport Boulevard, where this is, especially if you look at slide 2, they've put a considerable tree at the entrance right where you would come. Newport Boulevard travels at a pretty quick rate. Its speed limit there is 45. So the reason that facility has failed so many times is because you really can't get in and out of it. It's a bad spot. So my guesstimate would be most folks would park in the overcrowded 7-Eleven strip mall where we already have major congestion, and then we also have very frequent bums hanging out at that facility, or homeless people, or whatever you do. Thanks for your time. I just think the combination of this thing.
You have a minute left.
Oh, I apologize. The combination of what you're trying to put and where you're trying to put it, it doesn't seem to make sense. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to this item? Yes, ma'am, please come forward. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Judy Pham. I'm owner of the Circle K. He was saying about 7-Eleven. Actually, it's Circle K. I've been there for 21 years. I've seen everything. So regards to parking lot, because of our shopping center have about 18 spots right next to the location. So their employees and their customer will park in our side. And regards to homelessness, we've been dealing with that like crazy. And then the behind alley is, it's just an alley. So we have bums, we have homelesses, we have drunk, we have drug addicts. We've seen it all, and we've been trying every day, every hour to take care of that. And then rehabs, and I agree with the gentleman earlier, and I don't know why we have rehabs people and then the cannabis. And right next to our store, just opened a vape store. So I am a scout leader. He was saying that their business donated to Scout. What I understand, I don't think our charity would accept those funds from them. And then every year I have my Scout troops, 189, and my Girl Scout come to our Circle K twice a year. They selling cookies, they selling popcorns. And I just announced them that probably that when this one open up, I would not bring my troop, my kids, my Scout, and my to go there and then sell, because I don't want the kids see cannabis, the kids see vapes, so they are very disappointed. So that's how they make very good donations and cookies and popcorns through our customers. So, and regards to the tax, okay, when business, the second item, can I say, second item is a penny. When they say they have to put in the register, suppose that product is $10. The second item, they have to put $10, and then they have to put a voucher or coupon for $10. So therefore, customer would pay taxes on a penny. So you get me there? So if it's $10, so that would be $20. And customer would pay taxes on $20. But in their register, they put coupon. The second one is $10. Because if they ring up one item and the second item is a penny, customer don't pay $7 on the second item. So that's for your information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak to this item? Okay, seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom or telephone, Anna?
No, there is not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll close public comment. I have Mr. Glue come up. I have a couple of more questions. One additional concern I have is overflow parking.
Yes.
The center where Sushi Town is, I can see being utilized very easily by some of your customers if they perceive the lot's full, or it's just more convenient to get in and out of. And then also the parking lot with the Hoover lithographic, I believe, is next door. So what is your plan to make sure that your customers don't use those lots?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. And I don't know if you still have our slide presentation up. If you could go to slide 14, please. Thank you. So a couple things that we're doing to ensure that this parking is compliant and that we're helping influence desired behaviors with our local business neighbors and residential neighbors is we're going to provide bold exterior signage that provides the message to please do not park on the streets. We're going to have exterior signage indicating to respect the neighbors. We're going to utilize a parking 24-hour, while the business is in operation, traffic flagger, whose job it is, as we walked the property with Bill today and went step by step to walk the property line and show them that if people try and turn into the property, they will be greeted by the traffic flagger who will indicate where to park and help assist them with the U-turn and getting in and out. However, in addition to that, if someone pulls into Sushi Town, who's a neighbor we frequent, and Hoover Printing, who's also a neighbor we've had numerous conversations with, we've already explained and addressed that concern by saying if someone tries to walk over from their property, they will be denied access to our establishment. They will not be allowed to enter until they remove their vehicle from the surrounding property, park it in our lot, or they will not be allowed to attend our facility. Additionally, we did do GPS checking around the community. And as you can see on this map here, we put in different GPS coordinates and saw how it mapped us to get to 2332 Newport. And every time it popped up and shows to go down, get off on 22nd Street, come back up northbound or southbound Newport and enter into the lot, not to cut through the back alleyway or to go on residential streets. So we're pretty confident that with a successful, full-time traffic flagger monitoring the traffic and security personnel there to deny access to anyone parking on the adjacent lots, that we'll be able to achieve that outcome. And I did want to say that part of our conversation today with Bill was that we think we can be part of a solution, not part of the problem when it comes to the homelessness in that area. I can only imagine that 24-hour security is going to help allay a lot of the concerns that they've had. And most of the concerns that I've heard from the people in the surrounding business community is that they don't have anyone there after hours, and that's where all the trouble begins. And when they show up in the morning, that's where the trouble is on their doorstep. So by having that 24-hour security and expanding our zone of influence, we think we can help alleviate that problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I have one quick
Commissioner Russell.
question. Thank you. I know you want to have thousands and thousands of people coming into your store. What's your guess on, at any given time, how many customers you're going to have?
Well, I don't think that store would handle that kind of volume. I don't think it's just theoretically possible, but I think 20 per hour would be like a peak time high estimate. It's going to be more of a curated experience. We look at it as more of a niche boutique style, and it's not going to be dependent on volume as much as it is on quality customer interactions.
Yeah. What is your target market? I know different stores have had slightly different. What do you see as your target market?
So we have different, models within the city, and every community we're in, different stores lend themselves to different experiences. This one is more a holistic approach. It's supposed to be designed to really entice people that are looking for, the medicinal benefits of cannabis. So it's going to be more educational. It's going to explain a lot more of the healing properties that deal with cannabis consumption, as opposed to just straight transactional volume.
So at 2020, and about how long does each customer stay in the store, average?
Yeah, this is kind of a newer model for us, to be honest, and we're hoping that experience we can, keep under 10 minutes. I mean, it doesn't need to be much longer than that. I mean, I'm sure certain interactions are going to take longer because they just dictate that. But as time goes on, we can minimize that and start to expedite it, I apologize.
Okay, so it sounds like the amount of parking you have may most of the time be manageable.
I think that it'll be more than manageable because we're going to put such an emphasis on walkability and bikeability, and we'll probably be pulling a lot of our target demographic from the surrounding community and hoping to capture pedestrian traffic in that way.
Okay. Yeah, because it does seem you have a relatively small parking lot, so I'm just trying to get an estimate of and obviously it's an issue, so
sure.
To get kind of an idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vivar.
So earlier you mentioned, I believe it was when you were referring to your conversation with the gentleman, Bill, something about signage.
Yes.
Was that referring to signage for the parking lot and making sure that cars going down Newport Boulevard know where you are? Because as one of the speakers said earlier, if the speed limit really is 45, in transportation engineering, we always assume that people are going 10 miles per hour above that. So someone going at 55 can very easily miss your sight. So how will you make sure that people know it's there and don't miss it?
Well, with the conversation I had with Bill today, we actually discussed, and we previously had with one of our other representatives, he has a big monument sign that's out in front. His store is actually located in the back of the building. So it's really important as a business owner for him to be able to still maintain that visual experience for the people driving southbound on Newport Boulevard. As a matter of fact, he feels that it would have a significant impact on his business if we were to block that sign, because I guess a previous tenant years back must have had a pole sign that was erected right in front of their monument sign. So it effectively would have blocked and, kind of canceled the effect he was striving for as a local business owner. And we assured him that that's not our intention to try and block any of his signage, and that we would make sure any signage was set back and allows for his signage to be visible from the Newport Boulevard side southbound. So we can use front signage, and we're actually looking at some options to still maintain a pole but not block Bill's sign. And we would accept that as a condition of approval to not block the Starving Artist's monument sign.
I see. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Arith.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to think of the circulation around the subject property, Mr. Glue.
Yes.
And someone coming down Wilson would be compelled to do one of two things, either drive down the alley or drive down Eldon to 23rd and then come back on Newport Boulevard. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm just making sure you're coming down Wilson would be
across the highway.
West or east, yes. Yeah.
And I'm thinking about your proposed hours of operation being till 10 o'clock at night. You'll have people potentially trying to get to your business driving down an alley late at night right next to residential. So I'm just trying to think of how you would actually continue to thwart people from behaving in that particular way.
Well, and I think that the suggestion would be is if that is an impact, I think that we could utilize our traffic flagger to actually, open the gate and back and stand and direct traffic, or to even go down the street to help direct traffic. Because from our estimation, looking at the GPS, it just doesn't seem to be directing people into the alley. Now, people may be familiar with the area and utilize it as a matter of common practice. I don't know if that's in fact going to be the case, but I think we have enough assets on site to direct traffic away from and around the residential area. But I'm sure that there's certainly going to be a car or two that pass through that area. I mean, I've seen, being there quite frequently, I've seen people that are utilizing that space to get to the Circle K and all the surrounding businesses in that area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Glue.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Glue. We'll close the public hearing and bring it up to the dais and see if the commissioners have any motions.
Chair, if I may, I just wanted to clarify one point. I was able to confirm with the city's finance department that gross receipts does involve the actual price that the item is sold for.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Chair, I do have one final circulation issue I'd like to get teased out. I think this should only take half a minute or so.
Okay, who do you need to ask?
Maybe Ms. Rosales.
Let me reopen the public hearing so this information is properly in the record. We'll go ahead and do that.
You,
Ms. Rosales, please come forward.
So, thank you, Ms. Rosales. As you're walking towards the podium, I am wondering, so since the driveway and drive aisle aren't going to be aligned, I am now wondering if the vehicles that are going to be exiting the site, will they be at a 45 or something other than 90-degree angle as they're getting ready to exit onto Newport Boulevard? And if they are at a 90-degree angle, would that leave enough space for the vehicle who wants to access the site to get past them to the driveway?
Commissioner Vivar, the driveway itself is 25 feet, which leaves plenty of room for a vehicle to exit and then a vehicle to enter at the same time. In addition, the two-way drive aisle width is 20 feet, which meets our requirements for two-way traffic on the site.
So we would expect cars who want to exit the site to be at 90 degrees to Newport Boulevard. Is that correct then?
That's correct, and they have it has the proper flares so they can make a right turn, and this is typical of a driveway configuration.
I see. All right. Thank you. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing again. Any motions on the floor? I don't see anybody pushing a button. Okay, Commissioner Toller, go ahead and make your motion.
I move that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find the project categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA per guidelines section 15301 and approve Planning Commission 2134 subject to conditions of approval.
Okay, I will second the motion provided, but I'm going to add some additional conditions if the motion maker of the motion will consider them. One, just to follow up on Mr. Glue's comment about having a 24/7, but a full-time, what I'll call a traffic management employee or flagger. That is not stipulated clearly in the operational conditions of approval under condition of approval 6. It says if parking shortages or other parking related problems develop, the business owner operator will be required to institute appropriate operational measures necessary, including hiring an employee trained in traffic control. I would like the employee trained in traffic control to be a condition irrespective of whether or not there's a problem. One, as that sounded like that was what they were going to do anyway. 2, would ask the maker of the motion to consider this application be brought back for a CUP review in 6 months after the opening of operations, from the date of operational beginning. If you're willing to do that, I'll second the motion.
Those sound reasonable to me.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor with modifications to the conditions of approval by the chair. Any comments on the motion? Okay. All right, and then we'll ask for a vote, please. Go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 5-1 with Commissioner Arith voting no and Commissioner Zick absent.
Okay, thank you very much. That decision is final unless appealed to the City Council within 7 days. Thank you very much. Commissioners, are we okay, or does anybody need a break? Okay, well, let's see, what time is it? We'll come back at 8:10. Thank you. Okay, we're back in session. Anna, could you read public hearing item number 3 into the record, please?
Public hearing item number 3, planning application 22-21 for a retail cannabis storefront business located at 2001 Harbor Boulevard, Suites 101 to 103, South Coast Safe Access. Please note, we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Arith, any communications to report?
None, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Vivar?
None, sir.
Commissioner Russell?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Tuller?
Nope.
Commissioner Rojas?
No, sir.
And I have none. Looks like Ms. Halligan is up again on this item.
Oh, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see if we can make this work this time.
Yes, we got it. At least I have it.
Okay, excellent. All right. So good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Michelle Halligan, Contract Planner. Planning application 22-21 is a request for a conditional use permit to establish a retail cannabis storefront. The applicant is not proposing delivery to customers. The proposed business name is South Coast Safe Access. Their Measure X partner is CMX Distribution, a locally and state licensed wholesale distribution business in good standing. The applicant successfully completed the initial application steps, including the pre-application and cannabis business permit application. Next, they submitted a conditional use permit application. If the CUP is approved, the applicant would take the remaining steps to obtain building permits, pass inspections, obtain the CBP, and a local business license prior to operating. The proposed storefront is located at 2001 Harbor Boulevard, a mid-block location generally between West Bay Street and 19th Street. The C2 General Business District property is surrounded by C2 properties on 2 sides. Residential development zoned R2 HD, residential multifamily district, high density, is located across Charlie Street in the rear. Commercial uses are located across Harbor Boulevard. The proposed storefront would occupy 3 existing first floor suites closest to Harbor Boulevard. Here are some site photos of the existing property. The proposed storefront would be located in the first floor along the Harbor Boulevard side. And as you can see in the other photo, there's a large parking lot with some deferred maintenance to be addressed through conditions of approval. The existing development is a legal non-conforming property with regard to parking and floor area ratio. The non-conformances were approved through planning application 86-130. The variance allowed an 18 stall reduction in required parking based on reduced parking demand of a 6,700 square foot warehousing operation for electronics businesses. The remainder of the building was assumed to be parked at a ratio of 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. This is the typical retail ratio in Costa Mesa. Pursuant to Costa Mesa Municipal Code Section 13-204, a conforming use, may be located on a non-conforming property so long as the use and site modifications do not result in greater nonconformities. In addition, if the site is legal nonconforming in regard to parking, a use may not be replaced with a use that requires more parking unless additional parking is provided. The variance assumes that the subject suites 101 through 103, would be parked at 4 stalls per 1,000 square feet, which is consistent with the proposed cannabis establishment. The existing parking and floor area ratio nonconformities can remain pursuant to the city's legal nonconforming provisions and remains consistent with planning application 86-130. Furthermore, staff visited the property numerous times to observe parking at various times throughout the day, as well as during evenings. Ample parking was observed every visit. Even so, the city is using its standard condition of approval that this cannabis storefront will require a parking plan if parking shortages or other parking challenges occur. The applicant is proposing only minor changes to the exterior, which include installing bike racks, surveillance cameras, shielded security lighting, resealing and restriping the parking lot, and new business signage. Signs will be reviewed and permitted separately per the municipal code. As conditioned, the lighting plan would be reviewed further during the plan check process. And as conditioned, the lawns along Harbor Boulevard would be replaced with drought-tolerant plants. Existing landscaped areas throughout the parking lot would be improved with more drought-tolerant living ground cover. As conditioned, more living plant materials would be required than what is shown in the conceptual image on the screen. A detailed landscaping plan would be reviewed during the plan check process. The proposed plan would occupy 3 tenant suites on the first floor, totaling 3,720 square feet. The proposed floor plan includes 2 major areas, the retail sales area and the back of house area. The retail sales area are shown in green. The remainder of the building would be dedicated to employee-only access. Vendors would be required to enter through a limited access door and be accompanied by an employee with the proper security credentials. The applicant provided a detailed business plan that was evaluated by the city's cannabis consultant. It is not attached to the staff report because it contains proprietary details. The business plan describes the owner's professional experience, proof of capitalization, pro forma, and day-to-day operations. The applicant also provided a professionally prepared security plan that was reviewed by Costa Mesa's cannabis consultant. The consultant determined that the appropriate security measures were included that address the city and state requirements. There are more than 50 standard conditions of approval for Measure Q uses. For example, age restrictions, on-site consumption is prohibited, compliance with state regulations and CBP renewal procedures, and of course, the 24-hour on-site security. There are site-specific conditions of approval that are being recommended tonight. One ensures that the new parking lot restriping and the landscaping is adequate. Also, there's a vehicle gate close to Charlie Street that should remain closed between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. This way, on-site vehicles can only use the 2-way driveway along Harbor Boulevard during that specific time frame. Staff finds that the proposed cannabis storefront establishment, as conditioned, complies with all 3 required findings for a conditional use permit. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to finds the project categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, Class 1, Existing Facilities, and approve planning application 22-21, subject to conditions of approval. The applicant's agent has also prepared a presentation for the commission. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Halligan. Commissioner Rojas, any questions of staff?
I have none at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Tolder?
No.
Commissioner Russell?
No.
Commissioner Vivar? Oh, okay. We'll go to Commissioner Arith and then hold on a second. We'll see if we can get your screen back up.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Halligan, thank you so much for the presentation. I do appreciate it. I do have several questions for staff in addition to the applicant when he or she comes up. So to start, maybe we can turn to page 3 of the agenda report. Middle paragraph talking about the previous illegal cannabis business that was located here. I'd like to zero in on the time frame of restitution to the city. So if you can tell me, when was the city finally compensated?
Commissioner Arith, the city was finally compensated, I believe in late 2021. And that is because at that time, the city issued the bill. So they would only be required to, the property owner would only be required to reimburse the city if a legal cannabis storefront was proposed in that location.
Okay, so we have confirmed for public record that enough time has lapsed since full restitution has been made or full compensation.
So they began the time clock from when the police shut the dispensary down. So it has been vacant for well over a year, because that was June 2019. And then once the city issued the bill, the compensation was in place. If you would like more detail, perhaps the city attorney's office would be able to provide that. But that's what I have at this time.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Halligan. Mr. Preziosi, if you wouldn't mind chiming in, I'm just curious to know when the final check was sent in, which would have effectively started the clock on this.
Commissioner Arith, so the way the clock starts running, it's twofold. There has to be a sufficient amount of time that elapsed between the prior legal use, and then there also has to be compensation for the city's abatement cost, both of which have occurred in this case. Specifically, the applicant reached a settlement agreement with the city. It's a matter of public record, and they paid a stipulated amount for compensation for the city's abatement effort in this case. I don't have the agreement itself in front of me. I can't tell you exactly when. The payment was made in two parts. I can't tell you exactly what those dates were. Mr. Drapkin might be able to take a look at the agreement and explain further. But as far as my office is concerned and the city is concerned, the applicant has satisfied that condition.
Thank you, Mr. Preziosi. I think the part of the statement in this middle paragraph on page 3 is where it says, and the owner of the property has compensated the city. So there are multiple conditions to meet this in terms of when the clock starts and when it ends. So I'm just curious to know the timing of all these things. And I'm not going to get all hung up on it, but if you'd like to do a little bit of research while I'm asking additional questions for anyone who wants to look it up, then that's fine. I'll go ahead and move on, and then we can revisit this if you'd like. In the second to last paragraph on the same page, page 3, it mentions that the property also includes a nearby counseling use, and I'd like to know more about the counseling services that are provided here. What type of counseling are we talking about? Please.
Oh, Commissioner Arith, let's see. It's individual counseling as well as family counseling and group counseling. It's been taking place on the second floor of 2001 Harbor since 2014. And a lapse in their license was discovered during a fire inspection just a few years ago. So at that time, they had to then comply with new parking standards for group counseling. And so they did obtain a minor conditional use permit related to that new parking standard. The Planning Commission voted to approve it 6-0 back in 2020.
Okay, so parking aside, though, just to be more specific, what type of counseling are we talking about here? Alcohol counseling, drug counseling?
My information from the applicant is that they do individual counseling, family counseling, and group counseling, and that does include recovery programs.
Okay. If we can do a little bit more research right now, I'd like to know specifically what type of counseling we're talking about here. I think that's rather important.
I believe I have answered the question. They do provide individual, family, and group counseling, including people who are in recovery.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Halligan. If we move on to page 7, In consideration of the previous question about group counseling and more specifically drug counseling, it says here that the Planning Commission needs to make findings related to neighborhood compatibility, health, safety, and land use compatibility. So considering the fact that the nearby business does provide drug rehabilitation counseling services, does this go into how you factor neighborhood compatibility?
Commissioner Arith, it does not.
It
The
does not.
municipal code does not establish a minimum distance between a cannabis storefront or any other cannabis use and a facility that provides drug recovery. And that includes, we don't have a minimum separation between cannabis storefronts and group homes, or homes that are specifically designed for those in recovery, or for any sort of counseling use that, may or may not include individuals in recovery.
Thank you, Ms. Halligan. And by extension, if we turn to page 14 under the findings that are underlined there, we're talking about materially detrimental aspects of the proposed project, if you will. That is also not factored into this as well. Is that correct? What is material? This is not qualitatively materially detrimental, at least in terms of staff's review of this item.
So the existing counseling use is aware of the proposed project. I haven't received any feedback or comments or letters, but perhaps they're here tonight. I do not know.
Okay.
I believe it would be up to the operator to determine as to whether or not they feel that there is an issue. But when the city council adopted the ordinance, they did not feel that there needed to be a separation between these types of uses.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just thumbing through the last bit of the handout here just to see if I have any additional questions. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Halligan. No, that looks like about it. Thank you so much, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Vivar, questions of staff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we know how long ago the Pilates gym stopped operation?
Commissioner Vivar, it was several years ago.
Okay. Do we know how long the illegal cannabis dispensary operated at this site, and did our investigations at all show whether or not the landlord was in fact aware of the type of facility that was operating in their establishment, in their building?
Commissioner Vivar, based on the police records, the property owner had been working with the police department, and the owner issued, the legal paperwork to proceed with an eviction. And from that point on, it actually did take, well over a year to shut them down. But our records indicate that the property owner was working with the police department.
Was there, I mean, I'm no legal expert. Maybe Mr. Preziosi might be able to answer this one, but I'm curious as to why the landlord might have not been able to pull the lease from the illegal dispensary as soon as the city and they found out that this was an illegal operation.
Yeah, I can't speak to why or why not the landlord wasn't able to pull the lease. We do know that the property was vacated by the prior legal use well over a year prior to this application. I mean, as just a practical matter, even when you have an illegal use on the property, it's not instantaneous. An eviction or seizing that illegal use by a tenant is not instantaneous.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Preziosi. One final question. So this is regarding the gate that is proposed to be closed between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m. I'm just curious as to how staff arrived at these hours for the gate closure and how that relates to the current use of that gate, and what this condition of approval by staff was trying to address, what concern that was supposed to address, concern or issue.
Thank you, Commissioner Vivar. We observed this property several times and spoke with the operators of the electronics warehouse. They do not open the gate early in the morning. They're usually there, they said around 9 or 10, but we did not want to restrict access too greatly since it really is their gate. It's that warehouse in the rear that utilizes it. Typically their staff opens it around 9 and close it around 5, but we did want to build in some extra flexibility since it is typically that business that does the opening and closing. The manager that I spoke with said he was open to providing the key to the storefront operator as well. But I don't believe that would be necessary, just given the condition of approval.
Okay, so the condition was really more to, I guess, put into writing what's already happening rather than to address some kind of circulation issue?
So it's not so much a circulation issue, but there are residential uses across Charlie Street. And so we've got a great, wide two-way drive aisle onto Harbor. So the thinking is that once the electronics warehouse in the rear no longer needs that gate to be open, it would be best to shut it so that all of the dispensary-related traffic would be on Harbor Boulevard.
I see. Okay, thank you, Ms. Halligan. I think that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, a quick question on the warehouse operation. Ms. Halligan, parking requirement was reduced by 18 spaces by variance in 1986. What would happen to that variance if that warehouse ceased operating and they wanted to put a retail use in there? Would the center be required to add those 18 spaces back?
Chairman Erico, I believe they would need to go, they would need to revisit the whole CUP.
Right.
They would likely have to remove a portion of the building in order to reduce their FAR and create space for additional parking stalls.
Okay. Unrelated to the application, but I just thought, I was kind of curious about that. All right. That's all the questions I have. We'll open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward. State your name and address for the record and let me know if, 1, you read the staff report, 2, the conditions of approval, and if you agree with them.
Thank you. Randall Longwith, on behalf of Access Costa Mesa, doing business as South Coast Safe Access, 2001 Harbor Boulevard. Yes, I read the staff report. Yes, I read the conditions of approval and agree with every one of them.
Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. We have a slideshow. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. I want to give a special thanks, and staff rather, a special thanks to Nancy and Michelle for all the help that they've really given us in getting through this. So thank you so much. Again, my name is Randall Longwith. I'll be presenting on behalf of Access Costa Mesa, doing business as South Coast Safe Access. Next slide, please. Access Costa Mesa is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a storefront retail cannabis facility at 2001 Harbor Boulevard. Operational hours will be from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We believe the addition of South Coast Safe Access to the 2001 Harbor Boulevard will help revitalize the location and sustain the financial viability of the building itself. The building has much of the first floor has been vacant for some time now. And we think that the addition of this business can not only revitalize that location, but also really serve to keep that entire building afloat and financially stable. So we won't be making any structural changes to the existing building, but we do plan to do cosmetic improvements, including paint and new signage. We will make landscaping improvements that include replacing the grass lawns there with California native drought-resistant plants.
We believe that that will decrease water usage substantially at the premises. We're also going to do upgrades to the lighting and that will increase security and safety for our customers and neighbors alike. As it relates to parking, we've analyzed the existing parking and traffic conditions, and we're confident that parking will not be an issue. As you can also see on the slide, we will also be including or adding bicycle racks to the location. Next slide, please. South Coast Safe Access will be owned and operated by David Dwight and Robert Taft, the majority shareholders of Access Costa Mesa, each of whom possess a unique skill set necessary for success. David and Robert have a combined 14 years of experience in the licensed Orange County cannabis market, and I think that's very important, that 14 combined years in this county itself. David is a CEO of Costa Mesa Safe Access. He's present here, and he's a pioneer, an absolute pioneer in the legal industry. He's the owner of South Coast Safe Access in Santa Ana, which has the distinction of being the very first cannabis facility in all of Orange County. He's got permit number 1 to show it. He's also the first cannabis operation in Orange County, if not the entire nation, to be unionized. And finally, South Coast is one of the very first cannabis locations to actually acquire full banking. And they acquired full banking back in 2016, when it was really unheard of back then. Robert Taft Jr., Robert, is also a pioneer in the cannabis space, especially here in Costa Mesa. He was instrumental in bringing cannabis to Costa Mesa and is often referred to as the father of Measure X. Robert's a local Costa Mesa resident and a local business owner in Costa Mesa. Robert owns CMX Distribution over on Cadillac Avenue. He also owns the Healing Plant over on Toronto Way in Costa Mesa. In addition, 420 Central Newport Mesa on Harbor Boulevard, as well as the original 420 Central in Santa Ana that's been licensed since 2015. Next slide, please. I'd like to take another moment to highlight South Coast Safe Access pioneering unionization efforts and explain just how monumental this really was back in 2016. David partnered with the UFCW back in 2016 because he wanted to ensure that his employees had a living wage, great benefits, and a career, not just a job that they could be proud of. When South Coast Safe Access joined the UFCW Local 326 on March 3rd, 2016, it was a big deal. In fact, it was such a big deal that the UFCW held a press conference on the steps of South Coast Safe Access to announce their partnership. Many major media outlets were there, as well as many politicians in attendance who were in attendance and spoke there. Rick Iden, the executive vice president of the UFCW, Local 326, was there and spoke. So did Senator Joseph Dunn. Then Mayor of Garden Grove, Bao Nguyen, spoke. South Coast Santa Ana Councilman David Benavidez, Congressperson Loretta Sanchez, and Nick Berardino, the former leader of the OCEA. It was a big ordeal, and we like to thank David for really spearheading unionization in the cannabis industry. Next slide, please. South Coast Safe Access is committed to being a good neighbor. On November 8th, 2022, South Coast Safe Access held an open house after notifying residents within a 500-foot radius and the owner introducing themselves to the neighbors, which was a very successful undertaking. In order to further facilitate communication with our neighbors, South Coast Safe Access will institute a community relations contact person to field any questions or concerns by the public. The community can express concerns or questions in person, by letter, phone, text, or email. They can even do it anonymously if they like. Our community relations contact person's contact information will be conspicuously posted on the store as well as our website. Next slide, please. Slide 6, thank you. South Coast Safe Access has developed an unparalleled 2-week training program for all new staff members that include group workshops, printed materials, online courses on cannabis and cannabis safety. We also provide training to our customers and the public through pamphlets and online material that are available not only at our stores but on our websites alike. As you can see in this slide, our education materials include topics such as cannabis laws, including quantity purchase limits, how much can a person buy at any one time or in any one day, and where you can and cannot use cannabis, the dangers of driving under the influence of cannabis, medical uses of cannabis, difference in strains, differences in effects based upon the type of cannabis you might use. For example, the different effects that smoking cannabis might have versus, for example, consuming an edible. How do you talk to your children about cannabis and the dangers that cannabis has on the developing brain? The danger of cannabis use during pregnancy and the safe storage of cannabis in the home. These materials are also available in Spanish, both on our website and in printed material. Next slide, please. South Coast Safe Access is committed to safety. We will upgrade the exterior lighting to increase security and safety for our customers and neighbors alike by replacing all existing fixtures with new LED lighting on the building. This will result in safe lighting throughout the premises and parking lot with no excess light spillage. Next slide, please. South Coast Safe Access is committed to protecting our environment and to be a good neighbor. Our environmental plan includes a state-of-the-art odor control and waste management. Our state-of-the-art air treatment system will consist of pleated carbon filters to ensure that no odor escapes our facility. Our waste management plan will ensure that the disposal of all cannabis waste is done safely and in excess of all state and local regulations. Our waste is managed and disposed of by Eco Waste, an industry leader in cannabis waste. Eco Waste ensures that all waste is secure and rendered unusable and unrecognizable before it is safely disposed of in the safest manner possible. Next slide, please. Thank you. Our security plan is intended to provide a safe environment for our customers and for our neighbors. Our main concern is preventing theft that can result in the diversion of cannabis into the black market. The real concern is not only the black market, but once it gets out of the regulated market, it can get into the hands of children. That's the big concern of cannabis diversion, especially theft, whether it be external theft or internal theft. But our plan combats both external and internal theft. As it relates to external theft, we have highly visible security guards. They will patrol the entire premises as well as our surrounding neighbors, ensuring that no littering, smoking, or loitering occurs on or around the premises. High-definition video cameras placed at strategic spots around the premises will monitor the entire interior and exterior of the premises, as well as the surrounding areas. Footage will be remotely accessible to law enforcement, including in real-time, live access, and all footage will be maintained for a minimum of 90 calendar days. We will post signs that notify the public that our premises are monitored by cameras 24/7. Again, deterrence is the goal before detection. We want to ensure that we deter crime. We'll post signs also that state loitering and smoking on or around the premises is prohibited and punishable by law. We'll have a professionally installed and monitored alarm system on the premises, and panic buttons will be placed throughout the facility, including at the reception desk and at all registers. Cameras will be also located atop of every single register within the store. Our plan also combats internal theft. Now, it's been said that internal theft is accountable for about 90% of all cannabis theft. Our security measures have the following mechanisms for internal theft prevention. All potential employees are required to undergo a rigorous background check. We have cameras, like I said, over each register. All products on the retail floor are behind glass cases, and the number of products in those retail cases are severely limited so that if one is ever missing, it's very easily noticed. Moreover, we perform an audit on all display case items at the end of each and every day. So at the end of the night during one of our audits, we find that a product is missing in the display case, we can easily go back to the camera footage and determine if it was innocently misplaced or theft. Finally, multiple studies have shown that employees who are simply told about the consequences of theft are substantially less likely to steal from their employers. So we tell each and every one of our employees during the onboarding process the consequences of theft from our facility. That is not only being fired, but also cooperating with law enforcement on prosecution. Why? The reason for that is because, like we started off in the security, we want to combat. We want to ensure that cannabis is not diverted into the public, into the black market, and into the hands of children. And if we've said, and it's been shown, that a substantial majority of all theft is by employees, we want to ensure that we combat that. And because of these measures, we've had 0 instances of theft from any of our locations. We also want to ensure that only individuals 21 and older are allowed to purchase cannabis inside our store. Identifications are checked 3 times before any purchase can be made. Once upon entering the establishment, once at the reception desk, and a third at the register prior to purchase. Next slide, please. South Coast Safe Access looks to be the gold standard of cannabis operations in Costa Mesa, and we believe the city will benefit from the owner's vast experience in the regulated cannabis industry. Our retail stores, manufacturing, and distribution facilities have a 100% compliance record. We've never been the subject of any regulatory enforcement action, and our 14 years of combined licensed operations. Our compliance record speaks directly to our competency, our knowledge, and our ability to comply with all state, local laws and regulations. I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rojas, any questions of the applicant?
I do, just one. Essentially on your community outreach, did you have any conversations or did you get any feedback from the counseling services that are on the second floor?
We didn't. Like I said, what we did is we used the same list that we gave to the city for notification, and we didn't.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
No, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Toller, Commissioner Russell, any questions? Applicant.
Just, did you have, what kind of interaction have you had with Charlie Street First Step? And did you get a chance to read the letter that was sent to us?
I did not. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're in safe harbor treatment. I guess you haven't gone up and talked to the people in the
yeah, we
upstairs, your neighbors. So,
yeah, we sent out the notifications. We didn't do the door-to-door. We didn't know if it was appropriate, so we didn't do that. Maybe we should have.
Okay, well, thank you.
That's why. Sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Vivar, questions of the applicant?
Did the mailers you send out to the community, to the residents, were those in Spanish as well as English?
I'm sorry. They were only in English. We wish that we'd done it in Spanish.
Okay. When you decided to rent out this space, did you know that the counseling services were upstairs?
At the time, we did not. No, I'm sorry.
You mean at the time you were scoping out the site?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Arith, questions of the applicant?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Longworth. I appreciate your presentation. To start, I noticed in your presentation and elsewhere in the agenda report that you had just one hour open house on November 7th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I believe it was from 5 to 6 p.m.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you what the logic was in having an open house that was right up against when most people get off of work and not maybe some other time when they're free, because this was on a Monday at 5. to
Correct.
6. So I don't know why not during the weekend or have multiple open houses?
Looking back, we probably should have.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If we, pardon me, if we turn to page 22, we look at the bottom for the facts and supporting the finding. It says that the establishment would occupy vacant spaces within an existing multi-tenant commercial building. I just want to know for the record, were there any previous tenants before you came to this site? Did anyone have to be relocated, I guess, is what I'm asking.
No, our understanding is that all of these units have been vacant for years.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
All right, thank you. I'm just one more second while I page through this. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
So for the open house that you did have, I'm looking at page 35 at the bottom of the top paragraph. It says the open house introduced ourselves to the community and allowed neighbors to voice concerns or questions regarding our company and was very successful. So can you tell me a little bit about what kind of feedback you received from the community during that 1 hour open house that you held?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say that, before I go, when I say that I wish we would have put longer, I wish we would have, and I'm honest on that. But our intent was that it was an hour, and we definitely would have gone longer and longer if need be. But I hear what you're saying, which is, yeah, but that could have pushed up against someone getting home, and you're absolutely right. Our mind, I think, was put it as an hour. Who knows how many are going to show? And we absolutely were ready and available to extend that for 2-3 hours. So,
okay.
But I wish I would have. Yeah, I think we probably within the hour had 10, 12 people show up. Everything was positive as it related to that, and most were asking when we were going to open. Very similar to what Mr. Glue said in the last one, asking about what different types of discounts people could get. We served punch and empanadas from the restaurant down the street. So when I say successful, felt it was pretty successful. And like I said, had it necessitated, we would have definitely gone longer.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions for you, sir. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll open the public comment portion of the public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this item, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom or telephone?
No, there is not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing then. I'm going to circle back on a quick question to staff. I think it was this planning commission. I can't remember. Everything's turning into fog. The counseling service that takes place in this building, when was that approved? Can you give me some of the operational parameters of it? How patients arrive there, the hours of operation? I seem to recall that we heard this, but I can't remember the details.
Sure, Chairman. So originally, the counseling use began in 2014. And they did, individual and group counseling. Then later on in 2020, they had to go back and obtain an MCUP because their license had lapsed. And at that point, the city had changed the parking requirements. So for group counseling, they're required to provide like a van pool or essentially a large van in which they carpool. And they have, relationships with residential facilities that make that carpooling easier. During my site visits, I did observe the vans on site, typically between the hours of like 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then sometimes from the hours between around like 10 a.m. and 1. I'd also see the vans there as well. Their individual and family patients would typically drive themselves. I do not know if any of their patients, walk to the facility.
Okay.
But they were approved to have patients on site Monday through Friday between 9 and 9, and staff is allowed to be on site Monday through Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Okay, great. I appreciate the answer. Thank you very much. Any further questions of staff down the row here? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Drafkin. Mr. Drafkin.
Yes, not a commissioner. But just for clarification, Chair, I did want to mention one of the earlier questions were when did the unpermitted cannabis operation cease? And I did look through the records and it shows that it ceased in December of 2020. So it has been well over the 1 year requirement and probably closer to more.
Okay.
3.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the public hearing is closed. Bring it back up to the dais, and I would ask any commissioner, if you wish to make a motion, please hit your make motion button on your screen. And I will wait patiently while you do that. Nobody's moving. Commissioner Vivar, are you making a motion? Okay. Somebody's got to pull the trigger. Okay, so we have Commissioner Toller. Go ahead and make your motion.
I move that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA per guidelines section 15301 and approve Planning Commission 2221, subject to conditions of approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Motion's dying for a lack of a second. Is there another motion? Commissioner Vivar, are you making
An alternate motion, sir.
Okay, so if you can
I'd
clear
like-
the motion off the board, and I think Commissioner Vivar's got a secondary motion. Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the planning application, gosh, I'm so tired. I'd like to make a motion that the planning commission deny application PA 22-14 for the proposed cannabis location at 2001
No,
Harbor
that'd be
Boulevard.
22-21.
22-21, my apologies, sir. For the proposed cannabis application at 2001 Harbor Boulevard.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? Motion is seconded by Commissioner Arith. So there's a motion on the floor to deny planning application 22-21. Motion was by Commissioner Vivar. Go ahead and comment on your motion, sir.
Yes, sir. So I appreciate staff's engaging on this application for the presentation of the applicant as well. However, I do feel that regarding compatibility, I don't know that adequate. I don't feel that adequate work was done on part of the applicant to make sure to ensure compatibility with the existing counseling services center. I believe that they had multiple opportunities in the time when they decided to rent out the space to until today, to this hearing, to simply walk upstairs and speak to the operators there. And I also believe that the efforts that were undertaken to reach out to the community regarding this application were inadequate, citing the time that this public hearing was, or citing the time that the community hearing was held during rush hour and on an inconvenient day of the week, and without having done the due diligence to reach out in the Spanish language. So I would like to deny this application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Areth, you want to comment on the motion that you seconded?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will draw your attention to page 14 of the agenda report. Bullet point reading, the proposed development or use is substantially compatible with the developments in the same general area and would not be materially detrimental to other properties in the area. And it's for that line that I find that this application is not substantially compatible with the surrounding uses and would be potentially materially detrimental to the surrounding businesses and neighborhood as well. That's all my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rojas, comments on the motion?
No, I think my fellow commissioners have covered my concerns that I shared as well. There was just things that just didn't line up properly for me on this one, and I too will be supporting this motion here to deny the application at this time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tuller, do you want to comment on the motion?
Sure. Page 16 of the staff report. If the bottom paragraph, if the Planning Commission believes that there are insufficient facts to support the findings for approval, the Planning Commission must deny the application, provide facts in support of denial, and direct staff to incorporate the findings into a resolution for denial. So the burden's on me to vote for denial, to find facts in support of a denial. And I'm trying to think of what differentiates this proposal for a dispensary in a retail location from all the other ones that we've approved. And I can't do that. This is, as I've said before, this is a new business. It's a store swapping out for another store. It's on Harbor Boulevard. Yes, there's residential uses behind it. A lot of the concerns tonight, including ones written in for this project, are about the same misconceptions we've been hearing for the last 6 months or a year or whatever. Secondhand smoke, loitering, what I believe are truly misconceptions. And I wouldn't be ever voting for an establishment to move into someone's neighborhood where I actually think that these real problems are going to materialize. I think that these dispensaries are something other than what we're imagining them to be a lot of times. I don't think it's the government's job to put the burden on business owners to figure out really awkward site planning problems for the storage of vehicles. I think a lot of these guys are doing the best they can with what they've got. I think the government's job might be managing this stuff in public space, but not on private space. I think it's not the business owners' fault so much as it's evidence that requiring on-site parking for every site is just a silly system that just doesn't work. And so, because I can't come up with a good, substantial reason to deny the project, I'm not in support of the motion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Russell?
Yeah, this one I had a lot of mixed feelings about regarding, yeah, it's really close to Charlie Street. It's really close to the some other rehab programs. It's the counseling program upstairs, and yet even though they were notified, we haven't heard anything from them to indicate that they see it as a problem. And I guess I'm not willing to take that point of view that I know better than they do what's going to bother their neighborhood. So unfortunately, I cannot support this motion. Thank you.
Okay.
May I speak?
The public hearing's closed, sir. So thank you. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, yeah, it's,
Okay, understand.
thanks. So, yeah, this one is a tough one for me. So sir, go ahead and have a seat, please. Thank you.
He's one of the owners, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, we're done. So if you could have a seat, please, that'd be great. Thank you. So, I'm inclined to support the motion for denial, and I'll tell you why. I think Commissioner Earth pointed out pretty clearly in the first finding about substantially compatible with developments in the general area. And also, I'm concerned about granting the conditional use permit will not be materially detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. I can't, in my mind, make that finding with respect to substantial compatibility. We made the same finding with the project, the application on Bristol Street, that it was immediately adjacent to Masters Circle. It was a use that was immediately adjacent to a residential neighborhood. We made a finding that it was substantially incompatible, or it wasn't substantially compatible, and I can't remember if we also made a finding on materially detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare. I don't know that we did or not. But it seems to me, and I know the ordinance, the way the ordinance is written, and sensitive uses, separation requirements for sensitive uses do not include counseling, particularly if it's any kind of counseling, but also substance abuse counseling. And that seems to me to be utterly counterintuitive. We wouldn't put I don't want to use, I'm thinking of some examples that probably are not very colorful, so I won't do it. But it just doesn't make sense to put a retail storefront that is essentially selling a drug like alcohol immediately adjacent to a counseling center where people are recovering from the abuse of said product. Doesn't mean that they're going to run downstairs and buy a product or whatever it is, but to me it's not substantially compatible. Now, is there a provision in the ordinance that defines what substantially compatible is? Probably, but in my mind, I've got to make a finding that the two uses in my mind are not substantially compatible. I'll tell you what's going to happen is this will get appealed, as it looks like it's going to fail. The application will get appealed. And I hope at that point that the city council will revisit the regulations for this ordinance, because I think they're totally inadequate from the standpoint of having no caps on these businesses at all. Let's just let the market work, and if 80 of these things march into town, we'll have 80 of them. Or have an idea about, what, should we really be putting these uses next to this use or that use? I think all that needs to be revisited. I don't want to use these guys as an example, and I'm sure they'll appeal, but in my mind, I cannot make the finding about substantial compatibility, and I can't make the finding that this, given the location next to the counseling center, it won't be materially detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. So for that reason, I'm going to be supporting the motion for denial. So having said that, I will call for the question on the vote.
That motion carries 4-2 with Commissioner Toller and Commissioner Russell voting no and Vice Chair Zick absent.
Okay, so that decision is filed unless you appeal to the city council within 7 days, gentlemen, which you have the right to do. And that will wrap up our public hearings for tonight. Okay. Get back to my agenda. So we have no old business tonight, no new business on the agenda, so we'll move to department reports. We'll start with Public Works, Mr. Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. So I have just one little report from the Public Works Department. Just want to announce for the new intersection improvements at Newport Boulevard and Industrial Way. Construction has begun for this new intersection improvements at said intersection. The new features will include redesigned access curb ramps, high visibility yellow crosswalk striping, and traffic modifications consisting of new pedestrian heads and countdown signals. The new crosswalk will enhance pedestrian travel for residents and businesses located within the vicinity, including students from also nearby schools. So our department is happy to announce that construction has begun. And that's it for our report, and defer it back to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Development Services report, Ms. Lee.
None this evening, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, City Attorney, Mr. Preziosi.
Nothing, Chair DeOracle.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for your work tonight, staff. As always, I appreciate it. Ms. Halligan, thank you very much. Scott and Nancy and Anna and Mr. Yang and Jennifer and Tarquin, thank you very much. Commissioners, thank you for your work. We'll stand in adjournment to our regularly scheduled meeting of December 12th, 2022. Good night.